Open eye, feel the waves cut through me. Hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me. So alive, make it last forever. Stop in time, yeah, I'm surrendering. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the China Open and welcome back to the main action as we get ourselves through and towards a final which will now feature Mark Selby up against Saengkham. And you have to say, sometimes you don't really get that luxury, but we certainly have got it this time around. We have got the two best players from this week's tournament trying to win this title and therefore competing against each other. It will be a great battle between the two of them. I'm absolutely sure of that. The question is on who's going to be able to come out on top of the first session, or is it going to be all square after the first 8 frames? Because for now, you have to say, you can talk about the achievements over the last couple of days, but ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Mark Selby has got himself into the 39th ranking event final, and he's managed to win 25 of those, including 4 World Championships, including 3 tournaments from China Open as well. So could it be the number 4 that is going to look to try and surpass Mark Williams, that has been the only player that has managed to win this tournament more than twice so far in his life? But of course, he's going to be up against a player that has conquered every single possible opponent that came after him. In the first round, it doesn't get any more difficult than having Judd Trump against you. He's managed to beat him 6-3. Then he had Ronnie O'Sullivan in the second round. Once again, doesn't get any easier at that stage. 6 frames before he was able to beat him before coming to Sean Murphy. Surely the player that was going to be, the favourite to beat someone that wasn't inside the top 32 in the time that match was going on. But no, he was unable to play well against Saengkham, and he still was able to defeat Sean Murphy. And of course then, in a brilliant decider yesterday against Watchalong, didn't leave his opponent a chance. And now, it all comes down to seeing what can happen now in between Mark Selby and Saengkham. Of course, Selby himself has only lost 7 frames in the 4 matches that he's played, which is incredible consistency. He lost 3 of those 7 frames in the first match against Pang Jung-soo. Only lost 1 in the matches against Neil Robertson and Karen Wilson. And then, of course, lost 2 more yesterday against Stuart Bingham. But when it looked like Stuart was actually going to be the one to challenge, at the end of the intermission, you felt like that was the case. At the end of the session, you felt like that was the exact opposite, because Selby was just able to take him apart in that second mini session, didn't leave him a chance, and now there will be a showdown between those two great players. Morning indeed there, Letitia. Surprise from Paul today. Well, listen, we'll see. Whether it's going to be the case or not, I think we have got the two best players from this week's, which is great. You don't often get that luxury, and now it will be down to seeing, of course, on who is going to be able to come out on top at the first try and the first attempt. For now, the handshake in between the players and the picture of the trophy, which I have to say does look like a trophy now. It looked a bit like a ways when we had Neil Robertson to be lifting that trophy, but now it will be all down to the trophy that looks like very much a trophy title cup, but at the same time, is it going to be down to the prize money to be a lucrative thing in the back of the minds of the players as well, as it is, by the way, £15,000 for the highest break. So China Open has managed to increase prize value even on that particular occasion, and it does seem like it will be Mark Selby that has been chosen to break off, and it will be all down to him to get us underway in the first frame. And let's see how quickly can he get himself into the lead there, because Napon, of course, will be looking to try and perform his best, but at the same time, you still have to acknowledge that Selby comes into this match as by far the favourite of the two. So we'll see what's going to happen, but at the same time, it will be down to a chance here for the red to be taken into the probably the left corner. I don't think Napon is going to try and take that one with an aggressive fashion straight away, because I think he is going to be colliding with the reds on the main part of the table. So just a very careful shot there on the cue ball, and now it will be all down to the top edge of the table there. Played very nicely indeed there from Napon, and he's allowed the cue ball to roll in behind the brown, and now he's also going to find himself in a position where hasn't really left anything away towards Mark Selby, but therefore he's actually found himself in a position with having only the right-hand side of the table available to him. But at the same time, I think something he has to be more cautious about here is going to be the factor of playing the red away to the right corner is not necessarily going to be an option. So he needs to make sure he keeps the reds away from the left part of the table. He hasn't really done that, so he needs to get a little bit of help from the yellow. He didn't get that either, and now it'll be down to the pawn. The story of the pawn, they don't favour each time. Yeah, exactly, but at some point, as I say, I think it's going to be a bit of a different case scenario, and he's going to be up against Mark Selby in the final. But he's got a great opportunity here to get himself the first point on the board, the first of hopefully many. He's got 3 meters of distance to try and go for that red, but straight away, it's a bad shot. I mean, he got the red in, but listen, I could have got that red in 10 times out of 10. The question was if you're going to find the colour, and whether he didn't have the angle or decided to try and play for the black, but because of it being surrounded by reds, it didn't really work out for him, and now he will be down to a safety shot that he can find on either black or potentially playing towards the top part of the table here as well. We're going to have a look and see what's actually going to happen, but he's still very much looking to try and get himself on the front foot. As I say, a couple of really good safeties that he's played, and at the same time, there will be, as I say, an opportunity to play the cue ball away from the black, and we'll see with what is actually going to happen at that stage, because I think it would be down to the pawn to having the need to outscore Mark Selby, as he does find himself in a position which is very similar to what Joey Long had to do in his first couple of shots against Napon Saengkham in one of those frames, and he's got 2 cues and 1 spider to try and play 1 shot there, which if you talk about invention, what do you know about it? Napon seems to know everything that you need to. So let's see the way this is going to work. As I say, he's genuinely got a rest on top of a spider, and on top of a rest, there is a cue. So let's see what's going to happen here, but it's just a careful shot of the black to be played away. And now he's got 3 pieces of equipment to try and remove from the table before eventually allowing Mark Selby to step back towards the table here. So then a chance for Mark to try and send the cue ball to the top side of the table again. I don't think he's going to be considering taking a red away into the middle. I mean, it could have been, but I'm a little bit surprised that he's taking that red away, actually. That I say he could have played into the middle. He's surely not going to be taking this red on there, but what sort of safety can he play of it? And there's your answer. He could just about squeeze that cue ball past the main pack of the reds if he was trying to play it from the red closest to the cue ball, but I still think he has left the same red available, so should be a cross double available here for Napon, as he gets himself into his second ranking final. Very close to getting a double kiss, but in the end manages to avoid any sort of contact in between the cue ball and that red that he was sending from the right side to the center of the table. And yeah, of course, the previous time of asking you was very much a tournament of surprises for him in 2023 Scottish Open, but he was still unable to challenge Gary Wilson all the way, and in the end lost that match by 9 frames to 5. But listen, a lot has changed. It's been almost 3 years, well, actually more than 3 years since that point of no, it would have been Scottish Open, so it must be a little bit less than 3 years, sorry. You always get confusing with the Welsh, because it's the only tournament that is going to be held at the second part of the season. But surprising to see here for now. You know, Selby is the player that is having to spend majority of the time recovering from a good safety there from Saengkham, and Napon is the one seems to just try and apply the pressure on Selby here throughout those shots, as he now just tries to take the pink away towards the left side cushion, and plays that cue ball pretty well when he comes down to bouncing in behind the yellow. So that gives the turn back towards Selby once again. But you have to say, he may have given the turn away, but I don't think he's given him any easy options to see here. Certainly not on the left-hand side, and I don't think on the right-hand side either. So this could well be seeing a shot into the cushion first, but even then, you know, the reds are pretty spread out away from each other there. So if you're going to be hitting the cue ball into the cushion, you probably want to try and get the thin contact on those reds on the right-hand side of the table. But once again, easier said than done there. He is thinking about playing a bit of a dump shot and just get the cue ball to be lined up on the black ball cushion. But as I say, I think he was always going to come down to having to play a shot from the cushion. And that's exactly what he's going to do here. So always, you know, try and miss the red with the first time, which is not what he's done. And this is why I say always try to miss the red on the first occasion, because he caught that one full ball, and he's going to leave the position to be wide open here for Saengkham. Once again, a very good start there for him. So far, so good. And yeah, he just needs to make sure he does everything that he has done against Joey Long in those first 2 frames, but also he needs to try and keep that pace that Bingham was setting in his match against Mark Selby, which hopefully will allow him to, you know, play those type of shots without having, you know, huge risk of, actually allowing a chance away to Mark Selby, because he needs to be very good when he comes down to taking those chances away from his opponent, because, as I say, winning against Ronnie, Trump, O'Sullivan and Joe is a great achievement, but I still think it's going to be a bit of a different fish in the sea there for him to try and catch here, if he's going to try and defeat Mark Selby into a first to 10 match format as well, as he leaves that cue ball to be right above the red, positioning himself nicely for the black now to be taken. Needs to try and remove that red as soon as he can, because it's not really going to be one of the ones which are difficult for him to pot, but at the same time it could be the one compromising the positional play slightly for him, whether it's going to be down to trying to play a positional shot on the black or trying to get away from the black and just play the cue ball a little bit higher up the table. We'll see if that's going to happen though, because for now I think he's going to have to try and focus on the reds a little bit more, make sure he is able to score as many points as he can. And well, I'll tell you what, straight away, just as I say that, he's gone for the simple red on that occasion, but you may have to, well, either play this shot with so much power there on the blue, because he's going to be well on the wrong side here, or he's going to have to go for the brown or green. He's going to go for the power option instead. He's been playing those shots really well, and this shot is not going to be an exclusion from the order anyway. It's going to be a really nice way for him to get the cue ball past the brown and green through the same gap, and now it's all down to an opportunity on the red to be taken towards the left part of the table. So we'll see what's going to happen here as he carefully takes that red away and makes that cue ball to go running for the blue yet again. But this time he's not going to have any angle at all, it would seem, which is going to be fine, because he's got the red pretty much alongside the blue ball line into the left middle to be taken. Or of course, if he wants to try and play behind that red, he can play it into the right corner. And it will also be down to an opportunity on the red to be taken in towards the left part of the table. But I think ultimately it will come down to 2 more reds that he's got available. Depends on if any of the 5 of them in the middle of the table will be going past each other into the right corner, because if they do, you're going to have an opportunity to try and spread the reds away very quickly from one another. And therefore the pawn could still find himself in a position of playing that cue ball through the black and trying to get himself lined up on those 5 reds, or even trying to play sort of in the middle of them. But as I say, it's been a very positive start so far, something that we haven't really seen against Mark Selby. And so then we are going to be looking at another opportunity of scoring some big points here, because you have to say it will come down to an opportunity for Mark Selby to come alive later on in the match. But also, we have seen at the start of yesterday's match, and also at the start of, well, to a certain extent, at the start of the match against Neil Robertson, Selby wasn't really able to score those frame-winning breaks every single time there. Especially that was visible in the match against Stuart Bingham. But on this time around, it will be all down to an opportunity here for Saengkham to try and play the blue in towards the right middle, and make sure there will be an opportunity of playing the cue ball into the reds. Didn't play that shot well enough at all. Always wonder why players would like to take the power away there. There was no risk of not being lined up in any of those reds, but in the end, he has just stunned that cue ball into the reds, and he's not going to have any option at all. So he's gone from being comfortably in the reds to now having to play a safety shot in no time at all. But at least he played pretty well. I'll give him that, because the cue ball now on the ball cushion, not too many reds available to him, and therefore he won't really be a chance away to Mark Selby to do anything simple here for him, especially when it comes down to an opportunity of playing those type of shots where you're going to try and play the cue ball away from those reds, trying to pot a red at the same time, and therefore just find yourself to be struggling a little bit there. But Selby's going to have to do something with that red on the right corner, he feels. Let's see how far is he going to be able to get there. Well, it's always a very difficult shot for him to be taking on there. I'm very surprised that he's taking that on, and gets a little bit fortunate to not to leave that red available because of getting a lucky kiss of the brown. But yeah, as I say, for now, Selby seems like he's struggling. And Saengkham, of course, needs to make sure he tries to utilise that opportunity, because he don't see Mark Selby to be struggling in the first stage of the final too much. But yeah, seemingly Saengkham was able to get away without too many nerves there. Now finding himself in a little bit of a spot of bother, you have to say, because not being an easy position for him to recover from. Having to play the cue ball onto the right side rail here probably, but it does risk of allowing Selby to have exactly the opportunity that Selby has given to him. But it seems like he was a little bit more fortunate. He's dumped the cue ball to be in the middle of the table there, being alongside the pink spot, but ultimately quite close towards the side rail as well. So now, what has he got available for Selby? Because the red that he's played has gone above the middle of the table, so it's not going to be available for Selby right now. But you still have to ask the question whether one of those 4 reds into the left corner will be available, and Selby seems like he's trying to find out himself whether it's going to be worth it to be taking either one of those 4 reds on, because, as I say, from the cushion, he needs to dig down to, well, first of all, avoid any necessary side spin, but also just try and play that cue ball with a stun towards the blue. It didn't work out for now, and now there will be a chance of playing the red into the opposite side of the table there for the pawn. So it just seems like he's still finding himself in a little bit of a settling rhythm there, Mark Selby, as he's still looking to try and get his first points on the board here. 39 points to 0 down, but more importantly, Saengkham has got a chance to try and extend that lead even further and leave himself with plenty of work to do later on, as it's now a brilliant raid that he's taken, and he is going to be top side of a blue. So it does seem like it's working out pretty well for Napan Saengkham, and he's now trying to find himself to be right back in the mix for having and being in charge of this first frame, making sure he's not going to leave any opportunities away to Mark Selby, and therefore just allowing himself to go for this blue here into the left middle, play that cue ball away past the black, and just make sure he gives enough bounce to the cue ball. Should be able to be positioned on, the reds, which is going to be the lower of the two, and therefore should free up the next one if he just doesn't really bounce the red that he's going to play the cue ball in towards, too close towards the side cushion, which he hasn't done. A little bit awkward to be having to breach over the red onto the left side rail as he tries to go for the black in towards the right corner, but at the same time, I think he's going to have to be positioned for the black to be taken now in towards the right part of the table. And once again, just seems like for now at least, there is no nerves. He's absolutely calm, he's absolutely composed, and he's playing quite well when it comes down to playing some good shots there, trying to score some big points for himself. And now, of course, looking at 53 points being the gap, 14 being the break, and still trying to go for the red now in towards the left part of the table, and carefully playing that cue ball on the right hand side of the black to be taken away and into the left corner, as he got a chance now of trying to get that cue ball to be lined up on the right hand side of a red yet again, and therefore just get himself lined up for a chance of putting yet another red into the left corner, which of course at this stage will be very much the frame ball for him. And at that time, he will be down to Saengkham to leave it all down to an opportunity of taking that first frame away, which of course already is going to be a very positive start to this first mini session, as he's now going to be, I think, perfectly alongside the blue, which is not really going to boost his chances too much of trying to play the cue ball on towards the next couple of reds. But at the same time, he should be able to force the white on towards the black cushion, or at least somewhat close to it. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. Let's see if he's going to be able to get that red in as well, as it's now been 20 minutes of the first frame. 0 points for Selby, 67 for Saengkham, but that's going to be the most that he can manage. The breaks of 28 and the breaks of 38 have been the best that the Saengkham has managed. But of course, I thought Selby was going to concede, but something that I didn't realise is that there are 3 snookers that he needs, which should leave him with a chance of playing this red away towards the left corner and just making sure that cue ball is now going to be lined up for the black to be taken in towards the right corner. And there should be an opportunity of just trying to make sure you are going to have a chance of putting the black away and just getting himself lined up for the red in towards the right corner. But, well, he has sort of met resistance in one of those other reds available to him in towards the right middle, but at the same time, he would also be down to a shot on the red having to be played in towards the right middle. But it's not the easiest one of all time because of how close the cue ball is going to be towards the side cushion, and I think that's going to be frame conceded. I don't think there's going to be any point for Selby to carry on, and he just gently pushes those reds away towards the black cushion. There is not going to be a point since he's left the red over the green pocket, but at least he's been able to score some sort of points out there. It is the Saengkham though that does take that first frame away and makes it down to himself to be the man with a little bit of front running to do, because as he was in his matches against Sean Murphy, as he was in his matches against Judd Trump and Joey Long, so he's lost the first frame only to one person so far in this tournament, and that's of course been Ronnie O'Sullivan in the second round, where he was finding himself 3-1 down. He's not going to find himself being 4-0 down here though, as it's now going to be, how long time today, going to be a big upset. Well, we'll see if that's actually going to happen, because I still think there will be moments where Selby is going to be the clear favourite, but at the same time, you have to give acknowledgement to Napon. He's been playing really well in those previous 4 matches, and he started off on the front foot as well, out there as well. And listen, I think from Napon's point of view, he just needs to make sure he keeps on playing the same style, keeps on playing with the same accuracy throughout the entire match. Because if he does it, I think it's going to be difficult to stop him. I think if he doesn't do that, and there is going to be a drop-off, I don't think Selby is going to forgive him for it. But for now, as I say, the thing that he can focus on is to try and build a little bit of a gap, make sure he's going to find himself in a position of some sort of control to a decent extent. And at that stage, he should be able to be very much the player to try and catch. Whether that's going to be something that happens, you never know, but I still think he's managed to get this match underway about as well as it was possible for him, and therefore he just needs to try and make sure it will be all down to him to be the man dictating the run of play, making sure it will come down to a decent opportunity for himself to try and play those shots in the way that he wants to. And it's exactly something that you want to achieve, but whether he's going to be able to do that, we'll have to wait and see as well. For now, there is going to be Napan Saengkham to get us underway for the second frame and make sure that Mark Selby still doesn't have too many of those opportunities to be available to him. As we now see Napan ready there for a break-off shot, clearly just thinking about things that he needs to try and perform here. And as I say, simply put, he just needs to be about as good as he was in the first frame, because once again, very consistent when it comes down to scoring, but very consistent when it comes down to safety shots, probably even better in the second aspect of the game than the first one. And just played really, really well. Can be really happy with his own performance, and still going to be trying to place that cue ball in between the yellow and brown here, trying to take the shot away, but ultimately needing to make sure that he's got the shot to be played in towards the main bunch of the reds, trying to get them away from each other, and just making sure that he has not left a red available here to Mark Selby, and seemingly he hasn't really done so. I think he's covered the right-hand side of the reds, and whether he's covered the red closest to the left side cushion as well, well, it remains to be seen, but I'm pretty sure the answer on that is going to be quite positive as well, as Selby's clearly trying to get through to that red with a little bit of a swerve, but I don't think it's going to be down to trying to pot the red, although he is aiming with a bit of a backswing there, which suggests that he's either going to try and take the power away last second, or he's going to actually try and swing this one towards the corner, and it was the first option which he decided to go for. As I say, I think that was completely understandable and probably down to not seeing enough of the red to try and go for the right corner, but even if he did see enough, I still think the angle would have been very much against him at that stage of a shot. And Napan just needs to make sure he applies that pressure consistently on Selby, which is something that he hasn't really been able to do so far. And he's now found himself to be cannoning into the yellow. And, it's now a chance for Mark to try and do a little bit of positives for himself. But the main question you have to ask is how far the cue ball can actually travel towards the left-hand side of the table. And how far can he go from left to right as well? If he does go for this red, which, he felt like he will, but that's how I felt. Selby clearly felt like it's not really going to be the shot that he wants to try and commit to right now. And in the end, I think it was the wrong decision. Let's see where the cue ball's going to finish. It needs to finish in behind the brown. He's left the red very close towards the right corner. But as I say, he needed to get close towards the brown, and he certainly has done that really, really well. Now there's an opportunity for Napan Saengkham to test his own skills of trying to get out of a situation like this. Having to go and try and find the side cushion on the right-hand side of the table. It's not going to be an easy mission for him to try and achieve, but once again, it's just going to be very important the way that he leaves a red, because I think he's likely to leave a red at this stage. But with the black to be covered up, with not easy transition on towards the paint there, you feel like if he gets anywhere near the bottom half of the table and he actually plays a decent shot there, well, we tried to just take it very thin on the reds, and something that Selby wasn't able to do in the previous frame. He missed the reds altogether. I don't think there's any doubt that Selby will ask him to take the shot again, as there's 4 points to be given away, but ultimately I think he knows the benchmark to what he needs to try and adjust the line and the pacing of the cue ball, and then he should be able to get it on the second time of asking there on that red, and hopefully for him to be positioning for the red to be taken in towards the right hand side of the table, which hopefully for him as well won't really go over the right middle. I think the referee's placed the cue ball a little bit too close towards the brown, but on the eye test, it doesn't seem like anything too significant, but we'll see how much the line is going to change. He was closer this time. He needs to make sure he hasn't left a free ball away. And, I don't think he has. The referee's going to have a look at it, but I don't think there will be a free ball. He's looking the wrong way. He needs to look at the red in between the green and the brown and of course say no. So now it will be yet another foul, but this time around it will be 8 points given away in total from the Saengkham, and attempt number 3 coming up. He can have as many of those attempts as he wants, the Saengkham, because of course he's not going to be able to see the reds directly, which means there's not going to be a 3 miss rule that he's going to apply to this particular shot. So, let's see how far can he take this one away. So Napon is happy, Selby's happy as well. So let's see if he's going to be completely happy after he would have played this shot. He got closer in the second attempt. Let's see how close he wants to be on the third attempt as well. He got even closer there, but very fine margin of a gap there. And still, looking at the free ball not being available, it won't be. So it's 12 points now given away to Mark Selby. And at the end you have to say, it's probably not down to, Selby playing a brilliant shot there, but at the same time, it's just down to Saengkham not really being in the mood of leaving the chance available to Selby, and therefore he clearly is going to be in a position where he'd rather give some foul points away as an extra rather than, playing one shot which would get the cue ball to be too close to that red, and therefore either put it over the middle or, as he has done right now, he was trying to do it very gradually, but in the end he wasn't able to achieve the result that he was looking for, and now he will be all down to Mark Selby to get the chance anyway, even though the red was caught on the 4th time of asking. But this time it will be down to Mark Selby to play a shot with an attempt of trying to get the red away in towards the left corner, making sure that he's got the chance of trying to sort out the position of the colours here, which is going to be the more important factor of the position right now, because he doesn't really have to worry about the reds too much. I mean, there's a couple of them that are going to be getting in the way of each other, but I think if you treat them individually, it's the colours that are going to be a bit more of a disruption of a pace for Mark Selby, and ultimately, of course, disruption in his attempt to try and win the frame in a single visit to the table as well. As for now, he's got to look at the reds to be taken into the corner. Of course, the fact that he's got 18 points of a lead, 12 points on top of 6 points of a break that he's got right now, is going to be a little bit better for him, rather than without that points advantage that Saengkham has given it to him. But I think more importantly, he needs to try and eliminate quite a few of those reds on the bottom part of the table, as he now gets himself 3 lines up top side of a blue. So still an attempt to be dropping the cue ball down here for the reds at the lower end of the table. Whether he's going to try and take the cue ball into the pack of 6 reds is going to be up for debate. He decided to play it into that part of the table, but I don't think he got a great result of it. He's still always, and was, and will always have a red available to him into the left corner, but at the same time, it's not the easiest shot that he's going to have to play. And also, he doesn't really gain anything from that, apart from just getting himself back towards the blue, which he's overplayed for. But on this time of asking, can probably turn into a bit of an advantage as well, if he wants to try and take the green away, or alternatively, of course, try and take the pink in towards the right middle. But I think he's going to be going for the pink only if he's got the angle to try and get the cue ball down the lower end of the table, which probably unlikely to happen right now. So he just needs to make sure he takes the green itself in towards its own pocket and absolutely drags the cue ball all the way down the table, and now positions himself very nicely indeed for the red to be taken towards the right corner. So now then, 28 points is the lead. Still a chance for Selby to try and position himself for yet another blue to be taken away, as he now just working his way to be positioned for those reds, slowly but surely. And to get another one is about to disappear in towards the corner pocket, and still looking for an opportunity of, playing that red away. He will be down to a shot on the pink, which could see the white to go all the way towards the reds. Probably on this time of asking, it could be down to a left corner of the table as well to be available to Mark Selby, but whether it will be something that he's interested in or not, we'll find out and see. But I think he did a very similar shot of what Saengkham has done in the previous frame after having a 38 points of a lead. And I think he's going to have the same outcome where despite having a couple of more reds available to him, he decided to try and split them right here, right now. And it didn't work out, let's just put it like that. And 23 points. He's going to be down to his break, and 35 being the advantage. So there's still going to be a chance for him to play a more than decent enough safety shot. Just try and get the cue ball lined up for the top edge of the table and just carefully make his way towards, trying not to get any of those reds to be anywhere near the right corner. Let's see if he's going to be half as successful with that as he wants to be. And nice little line on the cue ball. Very nice pace judgment as well. And now Saengkham is going to have 35 points of a lead to try and overcome right now. Back on my computer. Thank you very much, Letitia. Appreciate doing the translator job. But yeah, for now, those 12 foul points could still be a bit of a problem there for Saengkham come the end of the frame. But meanwhile, they're not really going to be changing the picture drastically because he's still got 115 ahead of him. And he's still got an opportunity of playing a good safety shot, which, unless he gets the brown into play, he didn't really play out there. I think Selby is going to be able to get through to this red into the corner. There is going to be a same old issue of not having the pink or the black to a certain extent to be available to him. But if he gets the cue ball to be pretty much alongside the black ball spot there, he may actually be able to get that black away, which currently is going to be way too close to the black ball cushion. But he needs to try and close the gap down towards the black to make that shot very much to be on there for him. But I think alternatively, because of the angle, there could be a chance for him to try and play the shot onto the blue, which is exactly what he's done. And he's actually overplayed it, which is brilliant news for him because it's a lot easier for him to choose in between brown and green to try and get the cue ball lined up down to the lower end of the table. Yet again here for Selby. Just showing why you can never write him off here. And just making sure he's got a chance of trying to get the brown in towards the green pocket, making sure that he's got plenty of action on the cue ball as he decides to take the power away here, but this time around playing for the highest rate of them all available. And I think he's going to have to go for transition on the colours here yet again because, even though he's played a decent enough shot there to get majority of those reds to be available, but at the same time, the pink and the black situation hasn't really improved for now. So that's going to be something which he will certainly look at a little bit later on in the break, as he's now stuck at 6 points that he scored. And very similar stuff to those two frames, to be fair. The way they've gone in the first time of asking, when Apon had a good chance, wasn't able to take it, and was able to close off the frame through a second opportunity to him. And this time, we'll all be down to a red to be taken into the left part of the table. So the cue ball has to be struck quite well through the red, and needs to justify and judge the contact on the blue quite nicely. But I don't think he played that shot as well as he intended to. He may still be able to get away with it here though, because I think since he's done enough of changes with those reds, he might be able just to play the cue ball with a little bit of backspin, which is something that he decided not to be doing. So it's going to be a shot around the globe, trying to take that cue ball around the table. He's gone around the yellow, but I don't think he got the purchase that he wanted to, although he's still going to have a red available to the right corner pocket to be taken through the side cushion. And if he plays that shot well enough, he should actually leave himself an opportunity of taking that blue away, either into the left or the right part of the table. So then now a chance for Selby to get himself lined up with clearly a frame-winning opportunity, as he didn't really get the contact that he wanted on the blue, because I don't think he wanted any sort of a contact at all. And now he's got 53 points of a break, and in total is the points advantage, and 83 at the table. So he's still going to need 2 more reds there as the minimum for him to try and get this frame over and done with. But as I say, very similar scenario to what we've seen from Saengkham's point of view, as Selby there tries to exploit an angle on the blue, and I don't think he's going to get it this time, because just got that red from a little bit of the wrong angle and didn't get a good purchase on it at the end. So he will be down to 58 points of a lead. Very likely to be the break-ending shot there as well, because I think he's only got a shot in towards the yellow pocket there, but into the green pocket, I should say. But I don't really think he's going to find himself in the mood where he's going to try and go for that shot right now. There's simply going to be, a little bit too much on the line here, and way too little value in actually trying to pop that red away into the green pocket. So he's going to go for a lot more reasonable shot, just trying to play that cue ball towards the right side rail and make sure he would have covered the reds on the right hand side, which he's done to a decent extent yet again. So now 58 points of the lead, the breaks of 23. I think he's actually made the breaks of 23 twice there, which is quite funny. But at the same time, it would also be not so funny there from the pond, because that first frame that he's won does seem like, Selby's about to put this match into parity here and make it down to a draw after the first two frames. But of course, still, he needs to play some good shots. He needs to play the shot as if there is a chance for him to be winning the frame. And once again, just catches the brown, catches the yellow with the previous times of asking. He's left a chance here for Selby to try and take this red away. And how well he's been playing those long shots against Bingham and against Robertson and Wilson, you have to say, there's very little chance now of Saengkham to be coming back to the table with a reasonable chance of winning the frame. You're still going to have to see Selby miss an opportunity like this, but at the same time, still leave a chance available to Saengkham at the same time. So we'll see what's going to happen. But in the meantime, I think he will be coming down to a shot on the reds to be taken towards the left corner. Play this shot with plenty of topspin on the white as well, and try and get himself lined up for that red. Well, I'll tell you what, even though he has been making those long shots for fun, he did slightly miss out on the optimum angle, and he just undercut that red ever so slightly. So now, because he's missed it by so little of a margin, he's going to leave that red to be over the pocket. But it's the same old story here from the pond, as has been the story for Selby throughout the entirety of the frame. No snooker on Eurosport today for me. Marathon instead. Well, you know what I say to that? Indeed. That is a little bit of an emoji like this for you to be seeing out there. But ultimately, listen, it is disappointing, but sometimes you just going to have to, try and find any positives in it, which you're not really going to be able to do if you're going to be looking to try and watch snooker and then get a chance like that to be available. But now, listen, we're going to get an opportunity here from the pond to try and close that gap down from 58 points down to 52 for now, as he gets the red and the blue combination. And I think he just needs to score as many points as he can here. It's never going to be, something that is on the line for him to try and win the frame with only one frame clearance. I think it's going to be simply way too difficult for that. If you look at the way that those reds are currently positioned, I think you're going to have to play some brilliant shots in the meantime for that to work out. As he's now taking that red away towards the right corner and just making sure he's going to keep himself on the top side of a blue to be taken in towards the right middle. And just very carefully looking at that red to be taken into the left corner, whether it will go past the pink, which I don't think it will. So he might just have to play for the red closest to the left corner here, because, as I say, at this stage, he just needs to eliminate as many of those reds as he can, just to make it down so that it's not really down to just one red that Selby will need. And for now, he's trying to play a shot which would have got a couple of reds into available, but in fact, he's compromised the only red that he actually had available to him at that stage. Too tiny to see if it's Barry or Higgins. Higgins is never wearing these colours. Exactly. There you go. He found the answer. It is Barry. It is Barry indeed. But if he's going to have an opportunity of playing that red available towards the green pocket, well, he's gone for that shot anyway. He didn't really manage to get too close. And the red is going to bounce away from the green pocket in towards the yellow part of the table. So now it's going to be 46 points of the advantage for Mark Selby, with 67 still at the table, which of course would leave Mark Selby right now with needing 2 reds to be potted, which is not an easy mission for him to try and achieve, but at the same time, it should be something that he's more than capable of doing. If he gets a decent run here and tries to position himself quite nicely when it comes down to the opportunity to be there on the line. He's now looking for a contact point to be made between those reds, and just a very careful brush of the reds on the left-hand side. Just make sure that he gets the cue ball to be in a safe place in relation to those reds, and seemingly that's exactly what he's done. So now it will come down to a chance for Naporn Saengkham to get himself back to the table. An opportunity there to be written as well, as he's got an opportunity to try and get the reds away from each other towards the right corner, and just carefully makes those reds to go towards the black there, and making sure there won't be an opportunity for Selby to do anything with those three reds. And I think Selby is more and more, thinking about the red at the top end of the table, which he's not really going to be able to do anything with right now. So let's see what is actually going to happen. He is now still looking to try and play the shot away towards the right part of the table. And he should be able to play the shot with a way of getting Saengkham to be lined up. As seems to have a bit of a problem with his chat there. I don't know why, but it's asked me to ban you, Letitia. YouTube being a little bit funny there, but what a mistake that is from Naporn out of nowhere. There is now going to be a chance for the red to be taking it from Mark Selby's point of view. And, well, seemingly hasn't done really anything wrong there when it comes down to safety battles. But here, he certainly made a mistake. And he will be down to a frame-winning opportunity surely now for Selby to try and finish it off from the third time of asking. There's something. Naporn takes the hand back during the second frame. Mark built without reply during this week. Yeah, I think it was down to... Listen, I think Naporn has done exactly the same thing in the first frame. And Selby there misses a red, which I would have counted as a sitter. Let's see what the cue ball would have been finishing at, because as he left the red into the yellow pocket, indeed he has. And now... Well, I said that was surely a frame-winning opportunity for Selby. He only needed two reds to be taken. He's not going to be able to take them right now, though. Naporn Saengkham is now having a look to see what's going to be happening with those reds. And yeah, he seems like he's got still a long way to go in this frame before eventually he will find himself to be eliminated there potentially. Or, of course, try and make a massive steal out there to be very much on the line. Still 45 points down, having to play the yellow, loses him 5 points out of the maximum that he could have scored, and therefore just makes it down to, a bit of a difficult position to find himself at for the cue ball to be played in towards the yellow, and just having to play this shot with plenty of spin from the side cushion, trying to get that cue ball lined up for the black ball, and there is going to be contact, and he has managed to bring many of those reds into the open play there, and all of a sudden, what started like a chance for Selby to kill the frame off, it does actually put Saengkham to have the opportunity of being able to do something about this frame as well. He needs to hammer this red into the corner to get himself lined up for the ping, but that might be one of the most difficult shots that he would have had to play, barring the red on the right side cushion, which is nowhere near off for now. He needs to sort out the situation with the reds onto the left corner of the table, and he's still going to be more than fine enough when it comes down to total clearance, so he doesn't have to worry about, the colours that he takes, as he now takes the pink nicely away and into the right middle. It's into the left middle, I should say. And it's now going to be down to a chance to be playing a red away to the left part of the table. 36 points is the difference in between Naporn and Mark Selby. And I think he's going to have to try and get this one to be on the black. He played that shot well. Was always going to cannon himself into the red, which I think was intentional. Getting that red away from the centre of the table, a little bit closer towards the corner pocket. I'll tell you what, I'm genuinely surprised with the shots that Saengkham has played. And so far, they seem to have worked out for him pretty well as well. As he takes that black away along the cushion. And it will be some sort of a clearance if he manages to pull this one off. Especially with how difficult the position was before he took that yellow into its own pocket. So for now, 28 points down, but still a chance here with 43 at the table. He should be able to get this red and a black combination out of the way, but he also needs to make sure he's positioned perfectly for the black, which would allow him to try and bring that red into the open play And of course, if he does it, he becomes the favourite for the frame automatically. And for now, I think it is 50-50 in relation to it all comes down to this red, which could easily take Saengkham into the 90% of the zone. If he gets that red in, because of the position of the colours, the black is in. He doesn't really want to get in behind of the red too much, and he did. I think that's not going to be an availability into the left corner, so he needs to take this one in towards the right corner, although not sure about it because, of course, playing the red into the left corner would allow you to play the cue ball away from the danger area, but he's going to go for it along the side rail, so clearly committed, trying to make this red in, and no, not even close. How far is it going to be? Is the pink going to come into play there? I'll tell you what, it's going to be close, but I think Selby should be able to see that red. A little bit opportunistic there from the pawn. He played some really good shots during that break, but in the end, I think it is going to be one red too many. As I said, that would have been the frame winner. If he got that red in with a chance of 90%, in the end Selby has got a chance to play the red, then we'll need the colour and the yellow, and then he should be lined up for a 1-0 draw. Didn't really want to contact on the blue, but in the end, he caught it from the right way, and now it's going to be 21 points of a lead. So whatever he does, the yellow will be a frame ball. Just looking at the poll, 77 for the pawn, and the first session, well, yeah, I mean, no surprise there. I think it's going to be very much biased for the audience, but listen, I think Selby's got every single chance to win this session, but, the pawn so far has shown that he's here to fight and he's here to play, and Selby is going to have to rely on that latest mistake onto the side rail shot for him now to have a chance of a frame ball to be scored. At 26 points of a lead to be his for the taking as well, at the point of only 25 being available. So then, 26 ahead, 25 remaining, and Selby still looking to try and make 30 points of a clearance or so out of this particular break. If he goes for a total clearance, it will be his highest break in the match so far, with 31 points to be scored. With, interestingly enough there, he's had 3 chances to score big there, Selby, but he's scored 23 points each, and then 31 could be on the line here if he does make it. A total clearance here as well. As he now takes the brown away, positions himself nicely for the blue. About to be taken into the right middle as well, and just carefully playing that cue ball onto the right side rail, just making sure he's still got the bounce on the cue ball, just testing his skills there of trying to play some good shots as he now gets the position on the pink, and shouldn't really be struggling to try and put the black here as well. 44 points is the lead. Now it will come down to 51 points of a lead as well, as it will be the black that disappears to the right part of the table, and Mark Selby now, he's going to have a total clearance of 31 points indeed, which will now put him down to 25.7 as the average break, but ultimately he has now managed to win the second frame away. It has been 52 minutes, and we've only managed to get past 2 frames, but so far, plenty of action there as you can see, and there will still be plenty more to come as we approach the intermission. And for now, it is Mark Selby 1, Saengkham 1 as well. You have to say, Napon found himself to be the favourite in the first frame, could have actually found himself the favourite if he potted that raid along the side rail into the second frame as well, but not quite being able to do that unfortunately, and at the end having to settle for another type of an opportunity, and he's now going to go for a chance to restore his advantage of a single frame into the third frame of asking out there as well. We'll see if that's going to happen, but at the same time, it would all be down to a bit of a problem for him anyway if he allows Mark Selby to be quite far away from him when it comes down to his own performance, still not being quite at the level that he probably will take to try and challenge Mark Selby to full extent out there as well. Not a frank win. Napon is picking some points indeed. And yeah, I think, listen, he's managed to get himself into that position where he was playing quite well throughout that frame, but I think, he did leave himself with a little bit too much work to do there. I think you have to agree on that. Being 42 points down, I think he's done superbly well to find himself in a position that he did. And at the end stage, the fact that he didn't manage to get that red into the corner shouldn't really tell you that he did have a good frame. I think he had a brilliant ending to the frame. He just wasn't quite able to find that last piece of the puzzle, which, he would have been a massive long shot to go for that frame steal anyway. So yeah, he will be down to Mark Selby looking to try and win the next couple of frames a little bit more comfortably, but at the same time, I think as long as you keep winning, it doesn't really matter whether you win by 1 point on the respot black or you win by a couple of more of those points when it comes down to, a very comfortable win for you. Because now the referee is about to give the cue ball away to Mark Selby and make it all the way down to him to be the player for the break-off. They're asking the audience to get themselves back towards their seats, and it does seem like not quite a full house, but pretty good attendance there for the final, as we are, as I say, down to just the one table format here since yesterday. And it will be now down to Mark Selby to play the first shot of the third frame, and you're now having to make sure that you find yourself in a position of trying to dictate the run of play from this point onwards, and just make sure that you're going to try and build on that performance in the previous frame and just try and get himself further ahead there of the pawn. But ultimately, of course, just not allowing Saengkham to have those easy opportunities, which there has been plenty of in the first and even the second frame as well. So this time, the red is going to be available here for the pawn to be taken into the left corner. Let's see whether he's going to fancy his chances of playing for that red, which he will. But the question is, is he going to actually try and attempt that red into the corner, or is he going to just play a safety shot of it? And in the end, he was a safety. So carefully playing that cue ball onto the ball cushion. Played that shot really well, you have to say, with the pace of the white. And yeah, the red that he's played has gone beyond the blue ball line. So now he's not really going to have a difficult opportunity ahead of him. So still looking to get that red lined up into the left corner, and at the same time get himself probably positioning between the yellow and brown there as he gets the cue ball to be lined up to the top edge of the table. Get it through that line of yellow and brown on the left hand side, but in the end he's actually played the red into that corridor. Just about flicked the yellow slightly, but didn't really have a massive impact on the line that the red has taken, or anything that Saengkham now is going to have ahead of him as well. So still looking for a red to be taken in towards the pink and the red here, and which he has done pretty well to get the pink into the open play. Not quite so well when he comes down to getting the cue ball to the top edge of the table. One thing I've noticed there, after such a brilliant safety in the first frame, Saengkham has been catching those ball colours quite frequently there. When he comes down to the yellow, brown and green, all of them have been caught there on a couple of those occasions, and therefore you don't really find yourself in an easy situation there for Selby, as he still finds himself with a chance to be playing a red in towards the left corner. Let's see if he'll go for it. He will. Let's see now if he's going to be on the colour. He might be a little bit too low on the green, but he's actually going to be able to find himself. If the green goes into the middle, he's going to be perfectly lined up for the green to be lined up for a shot into the left middle pocket now, trying to play the cue ball through the gap in between the reds, but yeah, he's going to have to probably take it onto the left side rail, which is not going to be an easy thing for him to do. So then, topspin at its finest. Is he going to try and disrupt those reds away from each other as well? Well, he just needs to make sure he misses the contact on the red. He hasn't done that, so he's covered himself with the left corner, but I think he might still have a shot in towards the left middle to be taken right now, and if he's not, then he's certainly got a shot into the yellow pocket, which nobody will be able to take away from him. But he can just about squeeze his way through to the red, which seems to be very close towards the pink spot there. And I think Selby's finding himself in a very comfortable position now when it comes down to scoring big points, but ultimately he just seems to be taking some aggressive shots out there, especially with how well he's managed to get the reds away from each other, away from the main pack, and now getting himself lined up with the chance to, as I say, make things right there. That'll be nice to see some evil snooker from Mark, as he so well knows how to do it, and see how an opponent is managing. Well, I think it's not really going to be nice to see how he's managing it, because there's not a way for you to manage it. You're just going to have to shut him down, or, if you're not able to do that, then Selby's going to be, then you're going to be reliant on two things. Either Selby running away from you, or Selby losing, the chances by through his own mistake, which rarely happens. For now, he seems to find himself in a position which is better than anything that we've seen in the previous 2 frames. Created purely by himself as well, of that long red, of a nice shot on the green, and a really nice split to the back of the shot that he played after that. So the first 3 shots have basically set him up very nicely indeed for this position, and now he's got a really good opportunity to try and sort of take the black away now in towards the right part of the table, play that cue ball away, and into the red, off into the right corner of the table to be taken as well. 26 points is the lead, and still an opportunity to be lined up on the left-hand side of a black to be taken away and into the right corner. So if he gets the cue ball to be lined up on the left-hand side of a black, he's still going to have a chance of trying to get that shot into the corner. He's got plenty of reds to choose from, at least 3 more. And then, of course, he's still going to have a very flat surface of 6 reds, which are basically going to be 2 triangles combined with each other in the way they are positioned. But it's going to be probably a dream work for Selby to try and split those reds away from each other. He might even do that now, as he decides against it, because he would have always had the red that he's played for here, but clearly thinking about, this as being the final, where you have to maximize every single point that you can, and since he's got 3 more loose reds for him to be available, I think he's going to try and take those away before eventually trying to play the cue ball into the bunch of the main reds at the center of the table here as well, as it's now 35 plays nil. So he could well find himself to be something like 58 points clear as soon as he's managed to get those 2 more reds and 2 more blacks combinations, as he gets one of the blacks away. And now positions himself with 2 options out there, a red into the left middle or a red into the left corner. So just carefully playing the shot away towards the right part of the table, making sure that he's got the line for the black to be taken now towards the right part of the table. And after a couple of struggles there, you have to say, in the previous couple of frames where we haven't really seen those chances to be providing as many points for either Selby or Saengkham, now we're finally seeing a break of 50 plus out there. And now an opportunity for Mark Selby to try and get himself lined up for a shot on the red. But ultimately, I think he played that angle on purpose. I think he's going to have to try and go for a shot in towards the blue. I think he's unlikely to be lined up with a black right now, unless he wants to try and desperately stay on it through the right side rail with plenty of side spin. He might be able to do that, but at the same time, I think it will also be down to a little bit of a struggle for him to make that work for himself, as he now carefully takes that cube onto the right side rail and makes sure now he's going to be comfortably top side of a blue. And now 51 points clear. Let's see if he's going to be able to put himself 56 points clear right now. So play the shot with plenty of power into those 6 reds and hoping that he would be lined on at least one of them. And he will be. I think just about on one of them out there. And, well, let's see if he's got the black available in towards the left corner. He seemingly can get through to that black. And he will go past the red into the left corner. So Selby there decides that he needs an extension on the cue. So just carefully finding his way through those shots. But yeah, I mean, forget about the frame-winning opportunity. I mean, how well has he managed to play this opening couple of shots there so that he actually managed to transition the position into what it turned out to be? Because now 57 points of a lead, being lined up perfectly well for the black, can easily make a century out of it now with how many reds he's got in open play. It will be all down to him to be responsible for that. But also a really good opportunity of trying to get the cue ball lined up on the left part of the table. And still making sure that he's got the line of 64 points as the advantage. Looking to try and take the red away into the right corner, which of course, next time around he takes the black away. That would ensure that he's not going to be heading to the intermission being behind. And after losing the first frame, it's always a nice thing for you to achieve, just to make sure you would have recovered and you got it back to at least an intermission, which is going to have the draw of 2 frames each. But at the same time, it will now be down to a shot on the red, which I think probably eliminates any sort of chances. Apologies. Available for the Saengkham to try and take this particular frame away from Selby. But I think it also is going to be the shot there, which allows Selby to be fully concentrated on just making a century break out there, entertaining the fans. And after we haven't really seen too many of those high-value breaks in the first two frames, well, we're certainly going to see one now. As you can see, 16 balls more that Selby was able to pot in this particular frame. And of course, he's been able to pot a lot more of those shots in total. 12 reds, about to make it 12 blacks, which makes it down to 24. So, yeah, Selby already has managed to pot just as many balls in this frame alone as he has in the previous two, which shows you that he has certainly been able to create a really good opportunity for him. And he's still looking. I think he's not going to be able to go for the highest break of the tournament here, though, because he's used the green ones, which would have lost him 4 points. And then he would have lost 4 more points on the blue. So he's going for a 139 here to be the maximum that he can score, which is not quite going to be the highest break of the tournament. It will be the highest break for Selby. He's had 138, 137. He's now going to add 139 to the count as well if he stays on the black for 2 more shots. But ultimately, of course, it's now 97 points of the break, and Selby has put himself right in the mix to try and make it down to the first century of this final. And remember, his previous 3 ranking finals have, of course, been at very prestigious events. The third latest has been a World Championship final against Luca Brissell in 23. And then, of course, not ranking, but you know what I mean. We still think we're going to count Champion of Champions as a tournament with a significant value. And now he is going to be positioning himself well high off the black there, which probably will take him over the edge of taking the pink away. As I say, I think he's going to be very much aware that he can't make a 140, so we may as well try and finish off with just as many points as he can, dragging that cue towards the yellow at the top part of the table. And now 111 is going to be the break that he's got to him, without, of course, the 6 colours, which he's going to be able to eliminate and try and put them all back to their pockets, which will put him very much down to a decent opportunity here to try and play that yellow in towards its own pocket, get himself lined up for the green to be taken away as well. And that should very much line himself up with a total clearance here of 138 to be available. And once again, it does remind you quite badly of Bingham making that 130 break yesterday against Mark Selby. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the 4th frame, because I think Napon does need an answer. So we'll see. The lowest ranked player that Selby has ever met in the final. Well, he's played 39 of those. This being the 39th, which I don't think that would be the highest, the lowest I should say, because he is the world number 27. I mean, it's not necessarily like he's outside of the top 64 out there, but you know, it certainly doesn't seem like he's had plenty more players that would have been rated outside of the top 32. But you know, I'll check it now, because we are about to get a break in between those frames, because it's been a perfect break there from Mark Selby, and it will be down to a century break of 138 there from Mark. Saengkham hasn't really done a lot wrong at that point, but it was still enough there for Selby to make that pretty much perfect break at that point, and able to develop the position so well for his own sake as well, has now got him in a position of which he finds himself at right here, right now, at this point of the match, where he is going to be leading Napon Saengkham by 2 frames to 1. So interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of frames, but I think it's also going to be down to an opportunity for Napon Saengkham to try and get himself back into the action, because if he doesn't, I think it's going to be a problem for him to try and do that after the intermission, and he will simply put himself the problem. Thank you, Letitia, appreciate that. Stay calm, Napon, hang on, victory's coming. Well, we'll see if it does, but lowest ranking player to face in the final for Selby. Let's see what the answer is going to be. And is he going to be Napon Saengkham? I don't think he will be. It was Joe Connor, ranked world number 55, as he was when they played in that 2022 Scottish Open. And Selby won that match very comfortably with a 9-2 win to claim the title. So he's had David Gray in 2003 Scottish Open, where he was the world number 19, Pan Jung-soo, where he was the WSD Classic in 23, where he was the world number 34. Upon Saengkham, as I say, he was the world number 47 before he had started his tournament. And ultimately, of course, Joe O'Connor was the world number 55. Both of them being from Leicester. Both of them have met on a couple of occasions last season. But, of course, something that I didn't really mention, which I should have, is the head-to-head in between the players. And very interesting to see the comments from Selby yesterday saying that he does actually remember of what happened in his match against Mark Selby and against Upon Saengkham as well. And you have to say, it was down to a decent opportunity for Saengkham to try and defeat Selby at the Crucible on one of those occasions. He wasn't quite able to do that, but it was a brilliant match of 13 frames to 12 in the lockdown, which Selby still says he remembers very, very well. They've met twice at the Scottish Open. Of course, they met last season where we were doing a stream for it, and it was a very comfortable win for Mark Selby, but he's lost to Saengkham only once there at the World Grand Prix in every single matches that they've played up to 2018 there, where he's lost another match at the World Open. But for now, Selby's going to be comfortably leading that head-to-head. He's lost in the Scottish Open as well by 4 frames to 2, which was, the previous 2 meetings for them did actually come at the Scottish Open in 2024 and 2025 as well. But when it comes down to this frame, it is now very much one of those frames where it may not seem like a massive issue for Upon right here, but I think come the end of the match, the 3-1 of a scoreline could already start to become a little bit of an issue for him. So he needs to try and get this one on the board and go for the intermission at the level scoreline of it being 2 frames each. Okay, that's stand corrected. Well, we'll see. As I say, I think it's a little bit weird that they count the rankings before the tournament starts, but at the same time, I suppose in 2022 there would have been a pretty different system to the points there, which I think would have been different for you to try and realise on what's going to happen. Rank 27 is not so low, to be honest. Yeah, but I think, Letitia, once again, that's probably the counterpoint to that, because Upon did start this tournament being the world number 47. So, we'll see what's going to happen come the end of the tournament here for him. Could still find himself into the top 16 there, I think. As he's got, he could be finding himself in the top 16, just about on the edge if he does win this match. But for now, he seems to be getting a little bit further away from that. Although for once, he's actually played the safety, which is going to get the cue ball in behind the brown pretty well. I think he tried to take the red as a bonus towards the right corner. Ranking. His ranking is number 1, funnily enough. Based off this season, he is the world number 1. He's got 111 ranking points already. 100k basically for the China Open, 11 more K for the Championship League. And then he didn't really have any more ranking tournaments so far. So, looking very nicely indeed to try and qualify for some of the tournaments like the Players' Championship later on. Yesterday, the French commentator said 17th in ranking if Upon win. Well, I'm going to test it now, but I'm just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen with this shot from Selby. Because if he's going to try and make it into the corner, well, it certainly was a little bit of a risk of a double kiss. Let's have a look. He shouldn't take too long. I think he would be the world number 16, though. I think Si Xiaowei is not going to have enough points. He's going to have 443, which 150 more for Upon. Yeah, you're actually right there. So he would be the world number 17. Si Xiaowei will still have enough points there, which is a little bit weird. Because even though he only got to the second round, he still managed to get more ranking points there, Si Xiaowei, rather than what he's done at the Xi'an Grand Prix of 2 seasons ago. But still, it would be a massive jump from the world number 47 to the world number 17. But, I think, even if he was to jump to the world number 14, it wouldn't really make this life any easier here. It's a massive job on his hands. And he just played a shot which could have seen the cue ball a little bit closer to the ball cushion, but nothing dramatic there. And Selby, I think, is going to struggle to find himself a chance to be going for the rating towards the right part of the table. So we'll see what he's going to try and achieve here then. Looking for the red to be taken into the right corner, playing that cue ball away and into the black ball cushion. Well, he wants to be a little bit wider than this, but in the end stage, It seemed like even though he didn't play that shot perfectly as intended, he may have still played a decent shot there, although I think we are going to expect an attacking shot now from the pawn, because I can clearly see there is going to be room for the red to go into the right corner and for the cue ball to go around the black and the red and go all the way towards the top part of the table as well. I don't think he's going to refuse those chances, and I think he's got every chance of making this red into the corner as well, especially since he missed the previous red. Doesn't really seem to miss a couple of long shots in a row, and he won't now. Brilliant long red, about as close as it could have been to the centre of the pocket, and it could not have been any better lined up for the colours as well. This is the chance now to respond to yet another good break from Mark Selby in the previous frame with a good break of his own. He just needs to find himself to be in a position of having to take that brown away. And now, well, straight away, I don't think he played that shot as intended. And I tell you what, it's all fun and games, but he's got 3 reds available. And he needs to make sure that he's got at least one of them available. Though I don't think he cares about that too much, which suggests that he might be able to see that red past the blue. Yeah, it's a very challenging position now. It's nothing like the position that Selby had to himself, purely down to 2 factors of the pink and the black not being anywhere near the availability. But, well, it's a risky shot that from the pawn. As I just said that, he's going to try and bring the black into the open play. But for that to be the case, he needs the black to be taken along the blackboard cushion, 70% of the length of the cushion. Well, he needs to make sure he absolutely paces this one with no speed at all. He just about rolls the black in. So he played that shot pretty well, because he still had to make sure that if the black was staying out, he was going to be at least covering the red, which he's now played for. But of course, this does change the position slightly, because the perspective of having the black available, at least into the left corner, but probably into the right corner as well right now. And just needs to try and get rid of the red on the top left of the black there as well, so that he's going to be freely available into both of those pockets. And then, all of a sudden, you can start to compare the position of this and what Selby had in the previous frame to him as well. Overrun slightly there upon, but I think he knew that he can afford to overrun. Can't really afford to underrun there on the blue. And yeah, even though he's overrun by a bit of a margin there, he's overrun the bow colour, so he's going to have to take the blue away, which is going to be slightly further up the table than his usual surroundings. Still a chance now for the pawn to try and get the blue in towards the right middle, making sure he's got the chance to bounce that cue ball away and position himself nicely for the red to be taken in towards the right middle here. So 19 points is the advantage now for Mark Selby, and he does find himself to be in a position of... sorry, did I say Mark Selby? The pawn Saengkham, of course. Deficit for Selby to try and overcome if he does come back later on in the frame, but the pawn is going to have to try and do his best to make sure that doesn't actually happen. But it's an interesting shot that he played there, because even though he's perfectly straight on the black, on the blue I should say, into the right middle, you know, the factor of him being perfectly straight, can he just about get to the side of a cue ball to flick it so that, you know, he's going to be able to actually see the red onto the left middle, not getting the blue in the way, which he was able to do quite well. And thank you very much, Letitia, once again. Thailand again. So now an opportunity here for Nepon to play the cue ball on towards that red, get himself the wrong side of a blue. And you can also put your flag, guys. Nothing to try once late with that Thailand flag. Well, there you go. Letitia knows as well. It's all about the support for the player representing your country, which is very important for you as well, especially for, you know, Thailand has had such a quiet campaign in the last 3 or 4 seasons, but, you know, Chapchaya came out of nowhere to win the World Open after having a very sluggish start against Ronnie O'Sullivan, losing the first 4 frames. Didn't really stop him from winning the first session, did it? 5 frames to 4, and yeah, still finding himself now to be in a similar position here with the pawn Saengkham, looking to try and get himself back to the action with Selby, but I don't think that's gone according to the plan for him. What is he going to be playing for right now? Because he's got, I think, pretty much none of the reds available to him, apart from maybe the one into the right corner, which he needs to sort out the perfect positioning for. But I still feel like that raid is not really going to be the one available to him. Otherwise, there would be a bit more of hope in his sights, and just having to go for those type of shots doesn't seem like it's going to cheer him up too much right now. So let's see what's going to happen with the green to be taken. He's going to try and take the cue ball on towards the right side rail and just try and get it as close as he can towards the plant into the corner. And I tell you what, he's done a decent effort, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough there for him, because 35 points is the lead, and he may just have to be a safety shot from now. So once again, Saengkham is quite unable to replicate the story of Selby in the previous frame, but at least he's able to put himself some sort of points advantage ahead, and now get himself lined up with 35 points as the advantage, whilst 99 is still going to be available there for Selby to try and score some big points for himself. So still looking for a chance to be, potting this red away towards the left corner, which probably he's going to have to say no to right now and go for another opportunity, which would see him to try and play a shot a little bit closer towards the right-hand side of the table. We'll see if that's going to happen though, as he's still got a chance of playing that red along and through the side cushion, get himself into an opportunity of playing those type of shots in towards the right corner of the table, and of course inevitably getting that cue ball to be bouncing in towards the top part of the table here as well. But Selby surprisingly to me decided to try and put one of the reds on towards the side cushion, which doesn't really benefit his plans, because he's the one playing catch up. Therefore, he's the one that has to be very cautious about those type of opportunities to be given away. Therefore, upon having a look at the reds to be taken through and into the left middle, whether it's going to be down to an opportunity here to try and find a plant of some sort, well, I think that's probably the only thing that you could find yourself playing into, the middle of the pack. So clearly, a plan that he was trying to find that didn't really work out for him at the end, because last second seemed like he decided to change his mind there as he came back from a shot and decided to just play it safe, put another red onto the cushion and put the yellow on towards the ball cushion yet again at the top end of the table here. So it does seem like the mission is getting more and more difficult for Selby, but at the same time, still doesn't seem like he cares about that one too much. He's going to be trying to bring the reds from the side cushion towards the center of the table, but ultimately just trying to work out the chance which would see him to find himself in a position of trying to play a good safety shot, and I don't think he's done that now. I think there will be a long shot available for Nippon Saengkham, and let's see how well can he take this right away towards the left corner, and therefore get himself lined up for the black to be taken into the right-hand side of the table. This match at this point in time tells me this match is going to be snooker defining special. Well, we'll see whether it will be snooker defining special, but I also think there is going to be a contrasting two player styles there, as Nippon just doesn't seem like he's comfortable bridging over the green to go for that long raid. So he's seemingly going to have to say no to that one for now and just play a careful safety, looking to make sure that he won't get any one of those raids to be too close towards the left corner, and just carefully playing that cue ball to be somewhat near the ball cushion, although I don't think you play that shot too well either, because now Selby's going to have very similar long red available to him, pretty much as the only red available to him as well. So you may feel like he's getting forced a little bit into this long range shot, but it felt like with Selby's accuracy in the previous frames, you probably would fancy him to get this one in, but I think when you have to bring the question of getting onto the colour in play as well, I think that would make the shot twice as difficult. Nippon would need to make big breaks, at least 50 plus, to have decent chance of winning frames, and Selby's better experience in safeties agree. But so far, it has been pretty tight when it comes down to the overall performance for both of the players. I think the safeties have been better from Selby, but through a narrow margin. I think if Nippon was able to avoid hitting the ball colours, they would have been a lot better for him. But for now, Selby felt like he was forced into that long range shot, and in the end, he didn't leave anything easier available to Nippon Saengkham, but he certainly left him with an opportunity of taking a red away towards the right corner, but also towards the left corner, I beg your pardon, but also towards the right middle as well. which, yeah, if he gets the red at this stage, I think there is not going to be any doubt for him to be winning the frame here, but just needs to try and do that as quickly as he can, get himself onto the intermission and make sure, instead of first to 10, it will be now down to first to 8, which is always something that Napon needs to try and keep his mindset. Just try and keep it as competitive and as close of a matchup as he can. Let's see how close he's going to be on the collar. He may need help from the referee there because he's just given the rest away. He might need to ask for that one back there because, well, it's a horrible position for you to find yourself at because, I mean, even if he takes the pink away, what is he going to be able to do with the colours? You know, that don't really get him anywhere near the red that he needs to be on. So, because that's the problem of not having the yellow or green to be available to you. Because if either one of them would have been there at their spots, it's perfect. But right now, the cue will to be perfectly in between the brown and blue. And I mean, he's gone for a blue like that beforehand. He may decide to do that again. He will. So let's see if he makes this one into the pocket. Wow, it's a massive shot, as I say. He's gone for those shots before, but at a different stage, at a different opponent, and at a different result. Because he was making those blues to go for him, but now he's very, very lucky not to leave a chance away to Selby. And yeah, he's played for 0.5% of the table width, where he was actually going to see one red to get in the way of another. So you can just blame it and call it a great safety there from the pawn. But of course, we all know that he was trying to pot the blue and get himself to be within that frame-winning opportunity. But just tells you, sometimes potting the red in itself is not enough. You need to be on the collar. And here, Saengkham wasn't quite able to get himself out of danger at that stage. So Selby still being 36 points down, 91 at the table. Yeah, he's going to have to try and dig deep here when it comes down to a shot on the red. Probably to be taken along the cushion. Whether he goes for this one well and, you know, just takes the cue ball away to the top edge of the table, we'll see. But for sure needs to play that one well. And he has to an extent. I think he's got the cue ball to be lined up nicely at the ball cushion. So now there's a chance for the pawn Saengkham to try and go for the red in towards the left part of the table. Whether he's going to try and actually make that red in or not remains to be seen. But, you know, I feel like there is going to be plenty of options for him, that he can go for the plant in towards the left part of the table, but I think that might be blocked off by the blue, which I think is what the pawn is having a look at. And of course the red to be taking itself into the left corner is going to be a very risky thing for you to be doing. Certainly something that you shouldn't do at this stage of a frame, because of, you know, the cue ball is guaranteed to be seeing each of the other couple of reds. But I did say that plant was potentially available, and at the end of it, Napon Saengkham was able to get the plant in as well. Brilliant shot for him. He had to make a little bit of adjustment there, and he was able to make that adjustment. Pretty much worked too well, as he had to rattle the red into the jaws of the pocket. So now, it would come down to a shot on the green here to be taken, which will see him positioning himself nicely for the red in towards the yellow pocket. And as I say, still an opportunity here for him to go for those type of shots and to try and make them work for him quite far when it comes down to the overall scoreboard. And if he wasn't able to get on the collar on the previous occasion, then he certainly got a chance like this now. So 40 points is the advantage. Looking to try and get this red away and into the yellow pocket. Bounce the cue ball onto the ball colours and then give himself a chance to just aim the cue ball to go back down the table and finish the job there with a couple of more reds that are going to be available to him. At that stage, he's only going to need 4 more shots there, and then he's going to be more than 59 points clear, that's for sure, especially since, you know, he's going to be playing towards the lower end of the table where all the expensive colours are going to be. So it does seem like, after all that work, there will be a point for a 2-all draw to be very much on the line here. As Napon plays for the red into the corner. I think he's overplayed for it slightly, but that's only if, you know, only the highest red of the two will go into the corner. If the lowest will go as well, then he's played for it absolutely spot on. And it does seem like the lower red of the two will go into the corner pocket as well. So clearly playing for the pink. and just needed to make sure that he gets that red away slightly further from the pink spot, gets himself nicely lined up for the pink, which will now position him to be 51 points clear with 67 at the table. So as I say, now it's going to be only 2 more shots after that, and then Selby's only going to be able to tie in this frame. But then, the player from Thailand is going to be able to take it away through and beyond the respot if he's going to be able to get yet another red available to him. Game on. Kevin, thank you very much there for tuning in. And by the way, I appreciate massively the support on the donation. Very generous there from Kevin. Supporting the channel, supporting myself. Thank you very much. Legend. He comes away, he comes back with great knowledge and great sense of humor, and then he drops a very generous donation as well. Thank you very much there, Kevin, and appreciate all of you in the chat as well. As now, we are going to see a bit of a break here in between those frames, because it does seem like Saengkham is going to find himself in a position of going for the frame ball on the red rather than the color, which seems that he's going to have to play one more shot than I predicted, but ultimately he's going to have to try and get this red in anyway to make sure that Selby doesn't really have a realistic opportunity of playing those shots away, as he's now taken that red away nicely. It will be a break of 23 points, which we have seen on a couple of occasions from Selby, and now the first time we've seen that from Saengkham, unless he's going to be able to extend that. You can see in the background, Selby's already putting his watch on, which clearly is going to be the sign that he's ready to go for the intermission. Welcome. Thank you very much, Kevin, once again. Appreciate it massively. And yeah, chance for a red to be taken into the right corner. And just drop that one in. Make sure that Selby's not going to have any temptation of coming back to the table. So then, 4 frames down, 2 frames for each of the players. And you have to say, 2 frames that Saengkham has won have been absolutely dominated by him. But, the first frame that Selby has won was a little bit closely congested. And a little bit of a contest there that Saengkham was able to put up to Selby, having that clearance to be on for him, but just not quite being able to put it at the end. And Saengkham just trying to do exactly what Selby has done in the previous match against Stuart Bingham, but at this stage, he will be down to an intermission. 37 points upon Saengkham on the break will be enough for him to get that second frame to be won on the board. And now we are going to find ourselves with an intermission of the 2 players, as it is Naphon Saengkham that has been able to come back stronger in the last half an hour and finally find himself to be in that position of at least having a score draw in comparison to Mark Selby and Naphon Saengkham. Give me a break of around 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll be back to discuss what we've seen in the first 4 frames and what are we going to see later on in the match as well. Stay tuned in. We'll be back very shortly before the end of the intermission. Right then, everybody, let's get back into the action of the match and let's just get thinking about what have we actually seen in between those two players, because I think from my point of view, we have seen a very level playing field, which is nice for Saengkham. It's not necessarily a problem for Selby, so let's try and see on who's going to be able to benefit from that a little bit more than the opposition. And let's start from the beginning. Naponi's on the charge from wise, but Selby's the guy that can deal with it. Might go close. Indeed, if Napon will take the lead, I think Mark will switch to nasty snooker mode to push him to fold. That would be logic. We'll see. I suppose it's a good point from Letitia because we haven't really seen Selby to have the need to be doing that lately. He's always seemed to have, the advantage and the gap that are available to your opponent. But, you feel like if that gap starts to disappear, he may try and drag it on a little bit longer than usual, but as I say, I still think it will be down to a similar opportunity like that to be available from Mark Selby, but whether there will be down to a case like this or not, we're going to have to wait and see, but I still think there will be down to an opportunity of Napon Saengkham and Mark Selby both to be in the lead before the end of the first session, because remember, it is 8 frames you have to play, 4 frames have already been finished, so there's going to be 4 frames more as soon as the intermission is now going to be over. But you also have to say, I think from the performance of Napon, he's probably going to be slightly happier with himself rather than what we are going to see from Napon Saengkham out there, because from Mark Selby, I should say, because Napon has played really well in frame number 1, in frame number 4, and he's had a really decent spell in the frame number 2 as well. So he could have won 3 out of 4 of those frames, and realistically, Selby didn't really have a chance in the first or the 4th one, so I think it was very much fair down to Saengkham to be the better player when it comes down to his own performance. And I think if you rate during his style, during his ability, during his ranking and everything, his own performance out of 10, I think you probably have to give it a 6 to Selby, and you probably have to give it a 7 to Napon Saengkham, because once again, the reason why it's not going to be more than that is that because it is still 2-all, which is the most important factor that you need to consider, is that sometimes, even when you do find yourself to be playing well, in the final, it's not really about that. It is whoever manages to put that result to bed and manages to put their opponent to bed as well. So let's just have a quick look at what happened in the first 4 frames then. Napon Saengkham has started really, really well with breaks of 28, 38 and 1. And then, he's managed to get himself with, I think there was no answer from Selby before he sort of found himself in a position to be needing snookers. I think he's gone for the red and the colour, and then he would have missed the red and conceded the frame there. So, very dominant performance from Saengkham to get us underway. Then he was down to very much Selby to be on the front foot in the second frame and have pretty much a carbon copy of a performance, but this time it was him that was setting the pace, and this time it was him that was able to win that frame very comfortably indeed. Then the third frame, which once again in the second one we've seen a bit of a late comeback. There was something like 40 points of an advantage from Napon Saengkham, but he wasn't quite able to take that one away. And at the same time, Selby was just able to get himself over the finish line. Yes, he was close, but as I say, when it's close in the final, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be able to take that performance away into the next stage. You need to perform right now. And whether it was close or not, whoever wins the frame is going to be the one that finds himself to be in a better position. Simple as that. Then we've seen a brilliant third frame from Selby, which of course has seen a great chance for him that he was able to put into a break of 138 points. I mean, incredibly, that's 100 points more than anything that Saengkham has managed. Napon's got the breaks of 28, 35, 37, 38 as his highest. And, Mark Selby has certainly brought a gun to the fist fight because he's got a break of 138 to be his highest century in the match as well. So I think when it comes down to it, it won't really be down to a problem for either Napon or Selby here, because I think both of their schedule is going to have a mission minimum of a draw of 4 frames each. Because I think, listen, if Selby is going to find himself on the back foot and he's going to be 5-3 down, I don't think it becomes a massive issue. But if you're going to have Napon to be down on a couple of frames to Selby before the start of the second session, I mean, that's going to be a disaster waiting to happen for him, I'm afraid, because he's not really going to be capable of doing anything with that. He could try and overturn the deficit, he can, but he's not realistically going to be able to actually do that. So against Selby especially, because I think whatever you see from Selby in the first session, I think you can expect the same, but better in the session number 2, because the further it gets towards the final stages, the more he's going to be able to win frames percentage-wise, and also the more important frames he's going to be able to win, because sometimes you're going to have a frame like frame number 1 or frame number 4, where there was no chance for Selby. It was always Napon's frame to lose, and he was able to win both of them. But at this stage of asking, I think it will be very much down to an opportunity which would see, you know, the chance for both Napon and for both him and Mark Selby, I should say, to be in that position of some sort of control. But I don't think either one will be able to get themselves into too much of a lead, but we'll see. I mean, we've said that with Bingham and Selby, and that's probably the most dangerous factor about it all, because you're going to find yourself to be in that position of, you know, is he going to be down to Saengkham to try and repeat Bingham and just lose 4 frames in a row, completely lose touch of his game, or is he going to be Selby to try and drop a little bit at his own performance? Because so far, he come back from the intermission, you know, against Wilson, against Robertson, he was leading by 4 frames to 0. Which doesn't really get any better than that. But then, you know, it doesn't seem like he doesn't actually try to lift the foot off the pedal. It just seems like he's going to try until the end, and he's going to be trying to play his best snooker until the end as well. And I think that's something that Napon has to watch out for. And if that does happen, then he needs to have the counter response, which should allow him to, if not win the first session, because I still think it will be quite difficult. I think his best chance would have been taking a 3-1 lead at the first mini-session, especially since he did have the opportunity of doing that had he won the second frame as well and been able to be as dominant as he was in the 4th frame. That would have been a 3-1 lead over him to try and hold on to. But in the end, 2-0 is still something that you can try and use as a foundation, but whether you're going to be able to do that, we'll have to wait and see. For now, as I say, it is still down to Napon Saengkham to have 58 balls to be potted, 62 for Mark Selby, but ultimately, interestingly enough, of course, foul points is going to be 12 from Napon, which were all given one after another. 3 shots that he wasn't able to make contact with the Reds. I think that was down to the second frame, and yeah, he didn't really get too far away with that, because even though, you know, he missed the red 3 times, he was still, on the 4th time, he was able to catch the red, but still way too straight in the face, and that didn't really work out for him at all. But yeah, Selby is going to be looking to get himself back to $1 million's worth of club there, to try and get him to the world number 5, which will be a great boost, based on when he started the season from, and, you know, still looking to try and challenge the likes of Sean Murphy and John Higgins for that world number 5 spot. Whether he's going to be able to do that is going to be another matter, but you still feel there will be plenty more of the action in between the players, as we have got Mark Selby to be trying to hold on to at least a draw, which I think is going to be more than good enough for him as a result. And from the Saengkham, I think that's probably going to be mission maximum for him to try and achieve, because he needs to. Mission maximum, of course, being probably 5-3. I don't think you're going to be realistically talking about Saengkham winning the remaining 4 frames and, you know, just finding himself within that window of taking full control of the match, completely destroying the game of Selby. I think he doesn't really possess the style of play for that, but also I think he's going to be up against a very experienced opponent in Selby for him to try and achieve that. Be good to see Napon take the lead and how he deals with it, as he's never won a tournament before. I agree. You know, when it comes to the CV of the ranking tournaments, you know, you've got one page from Napon Saengkham where it is literally one final loss in 2023 Scottish Open, and then you've got 5 books from Mark Selby on how to win a ranking tournament. You know, it's like a Harry Potter saga, where he's managed to get himself towards the, I don't know, the Half-Blood Prince, to the book number 6. Because it just seems like he's managed to get himself through to 39 ranking finals. He's managed to win 25 of them. So it could be, if he wins this match, it could be exactly at 66.67%. So exactly 2/3 of all the finals that he's been to, he's managed to win. And I tell you what, he still finds himself to be in a pretty comfortable position here. Being 2 frames each, Napon has played better of the 2 for now, but as the both players come back from the intermission, it is now going to be Mark Selby to get us underway and start us off in the 5th frame here to see on what's going to happen and who of the two players is going to be able to find themselves to be in the lead after the 5th frames, but ultimately after the 8 frames as well, if any of the two of them. Now then, it's a break-off shot from Selby, which is not necessarily the best one that we've seen. I think that was probably the trademark red that was left at the right corner throughout the majority of the break-off shots. And I think Saengkham is going to be very much looking forward to try and pot this red, because once again, his problem hasn't really been down to getting those chances to be created. I think it's been down to taking those chances first time. And once again, it's a brilliant red that he's taken towards the right corner. Exactly the start that he wanted. Now can he try and build on that, as he does have green and yellow to play from indeed. That's a good win margin for Selby. Yeah, exactly. I mean, absolutely. Low station comparison. Exactly. I mean, it genuinely is a bit like heavyweight against the lightweight, or heavyweight against the kickboxer, if you know what I mean, from Rico Verhoeven's point of view. But I'll tell you what, Verhoeven was able to do pretty well against Usyk in that battle, but we'll see if Saengkham is going to be able to take it to the very end. Because one thing about, not that there's any analogy or any comparison there, but one thing about Verhoeven there is that he was able to take a very comfortable lead. And, of course he didn't win, but he was able to put up a good fight to Usyk at the end. And, I think it will be down to Saengkham pretty much having the same thing that he needs to do. He needs to build a very early lead, which means he needs to win the first session, which means he needs to play the best snooker that he can, which so far, I think he's managed to accomplish one of those things. I think his snooker has been really good, but so far, it hasn't been good enough to take a 3-1 lead against Selby. We'll see what's going to happen now, though. Selby needs to play the long frame to slow Napon's tournament momentum down. If not, I feel Napon will win. Well, I think if it's going to be down to shooting with points and trying to score as many points as you can on those breaks, I think it would be down to a chance for Napon to respond, but whether he's actually going to be able to do that to an extent which would challenge Mark Selby, as I say, I think Selby will have a couple of extra points that he can try and use there, but I think it's a little bit of a myth that he can make the position to be slowed down out there. I think if anything, you're going to be asking for trouble if that's going to be something that you're going to try and do, because what you're going to be doing from Selby's point of view and what you're suggesting is that even if he's got a clear track ahead of him, he's going to try and slow himself down, which is not the way that he works. If anything, for me, he needs to try and avoid that as much as he can, because if that's going to be the way for him to win the frame, I think Saengkham has got a really good chance to try and take that match away, because then, the thing about trying to keep the table safe is that you can never control what is going to be going through your opponent's head. So if you're going to try and take it safe, and your opponent does have the advantage, they may only be able to feel like that's emphasis for them to try and go for those attacking shots and make sure that that could be the only way that they're actually going to be able to win this frame, and therefore the match as well. Now, it's a bit of a bad shot from the blue, and the positional play just seems like it's letting down Napon a little bit here, so he needs to try and recover on taking this red away towards the right corner, but where's he going to find the colour from as well? For now, he needs to make sure he gets the red into the corner. Brilliant shot there, because he's managed to accomplish 2 parts of the tasks, and look at how well he's managed to get the reds away from each other. So, he had 2 tasks to try and accomplish. He's managed to accomplish 3 of them, because he's also managed to get the reds away from each other, and nicely lines up towards a shot into the right corner as soon as he pots the black away. I'll tell you what, Bingham was the one that closed the gap down to Selby in that 4th frame, but then ever since the intermission, Selby just came back with a brilliant ability of scoring some great points, making those breaks to work really well for him. And now, could it be something that Napon is trying to achieve himself? Because I think he would have had a very close look in that match against Stuart Bingham, and I think he would have realised just what exactly must he try and achieve for him to have the chance of beating Mark Selby. But, of course, when he comes down to the first session, he comes down to trying to have a decent performance of himself, and just trying to get, even if he gets 3 frames on the board, that would be a start, because that would always give him a chance in the second session. Because if you're going to find yourself 5-3 down, yes, it's going to be a difficult mission for you to accomplish, but it's still going to be possible. Whether it's, I feel like if it's going to be 6-2, you're not really going to be able to stand a chance against Selby because, Saengkham is way... I don't want to say a bad word, but he's way too inexperienced, but he's also not that great of a top 16 or a top 5 player that will be able to all of a sudden take 5 or 6 frames away from Selby, because if you look at the way that he was able to win his matches against Murphy, Ronnie and Trump, apart from Ronnie, he didn't really have a match where he had a brilliant run there of more than 3 frames. I know he's managed to take 2-all to 5-2 against Trump, obviously managed to turn around the 3-1 deficit into a 5-3 lead against Ronnie, and then against Murphy was a bit stop-start for him before eventually only having the maximum of a sequence of 2 frames that he was able to win against Watchalong. But I still think he's going to be approaching this match a little bit differently. I think he's going to have the need for, taking it on a frame-by-frame basis a lot more than he would have had to, since it is now going to be very much down to 2 sessions. You need to try and make sure you win both of them, starting off with 5-3, and then if you're going to be able to make it 5-all in the second session, then you're going to be absolutely winning this one. So I think the first session is always more important, because you don't often see a player to win the first session comfortably and then to lose the next session as well. We've seen that last season, and I'm pretty sure, apart from a couple of exclusions and a couple of exceptions, I should say, we have probably seen every single one of the times where players won the first session, they were able to win the whole match as well. I think the only match that may come into mind there may be down to McGill against Murphy in the British Open, because I think McGill was in the lead until something like frame 12, and then Murphy was able to build a really strong momentum there towards the end of the match and win the match 10 frames to 7. But yeah, once again, he's now going to be in the pond to be looking for the black to be taken towards the right corner, and a lovely little break of 64 points as well. Who do you think wins this session? Well, I think, as I said, 4-all is going to be a fair result, but I think the opponent's played better than I thought he might, and also Selby has played a little bit worse than I thought that he might. But at the same time, it's only going to be 3-2 if Saengkham does get himself the black into the left corner, which he surely will, and then he will be the perfect start to the second mini session. I think this is first time in tournament Mark's behind. Napon is going to be hungry. Depends on what he had against Pang Jung-soo, because when he was leading by 4 frames to 0 against Wilson and Robertson, he wasn't behind of Bingham either, which I thought was something that may frustrate Stewart as well. So unless he was behind to Pang Jung-soo, you are going to be right about that one. And I don't think it is going to be, indeed, the first time that, Mark Selby will find himself to be behind in this particular tournament. I will have a very quick look to see what's happening with Mark Selby and his performance against Pang, because he lost 3 frames at that point, and they don't actually tell you a frame-by-frame breakdown, which is very surprising. But anyway, I'm going to have a look at that one later on. For now, Napon is able to take yet another black away, and he's now getting himself lined up with a really good sequence of shots there, having 8 blacks that he's managed to pot, 2 blues, 1 green, and 11 reds as well. Looking to try and stay on the century hunt. This is going to be by far twice as big as a break as he's had in the entire match there. But in the end, he won't be able to make the first century break, but he's still going to be more than enough to try and keep Mark Selby in his seat. Surely, I mean, they're not really showcasing Selby there, so I would assume that he has conceded, because there was no point to me coming back whilst being 21 points unsafe. But this is where you can't really do anything about those type of frames, and Selby is just going to have to make sure he's going to avoid having the same scenario in the next frame out there as well, because for now, Saengkham was able to come back from the intermission feeling very lively indeed, and now finding himself to have a 3-2 lead against Selby to try and extend even further. Yesterday, we had 2-all at the intermission against Bingham, but Selby reacts, and that was the end of Stewart. Yeah, I think it was down to 2 factors. I think Stewart just disappeared completely after the 5th frame, because Selby had, the frame that the opponent Saengkham just had, Selby had the exact same frame. I think he was able to make it to a total clearance though, which was the only difference. But the first shot that his opponent would have played, in that case Bingham, Selby goes for a bang shot on the long range, and he was able to make that break work for him super well. And I think, purely from the body language, I think that killed Bingham. because he was 1-0 down, he was 2-1 down, and I think he just couldn't deal with being 3-2 down again, because the way that he had to win those 2 frames, he had to really work for the second one, because I think the first one he won with a break of 130, but the 4th frame was a real hard work for him, and then he sees Selby to play like that, and I think Selby played even better in the 6th frame, or somewhat near it. And all of a sudden, that puts Stuart Bingham 4-2 down, and I think he just melted from that point. I think he just decided that I'm going to go for everything now. It didn't work out on, even half of those occasions, and I think he did play into the palm of Selby. But it hasn't really been something that's happened here today, because Saengkham was actually the player to win that previous frame. Now he's going to be the player to go for a break-off shot, and we'll see if he can indeed try and extend that gap to 4 frames to 2, rather than allowing Selby to be right back in the action. Because, of course, from the pawn, for him to be having 4-2 of a lead would guarantee that he's not going to come into the second session losing. And I think for a neutral's perspective, that is about as good of a scoreline as you can have. I think the perfect scoreline is genuinely going to be down to 6-2 or 5-3 from the pawn, because at that stage, you're going to have a really good opportunity for Saengkham to try and hold on to that lead. And this is when it is genuinely going to turn into a quest for Selby, because at that stage, I think it's going to be a little bit too late for you to try and slow the game down, because you're going to have to try and play a lot better than your opponent. And it's something that we haven't seen from Mark so far based on his performance. So then let's see what's going to happen here as the break-off shot from Napan Saengkham is done. He has left a couple of options for Mark Selby, but I don't think, even though this red can be taken as a shot into the left corner, I don't really think Selby is going to be looking to try and take that one away. Yes, if Napan can get 1 frame lead into the next session, be happy. Yeah, the problem about it is that it's only going to be 2 frames or nil, because it's 4-all or 5-3. You can't really have 7 frames in here unless you're going to see one of the frames to last an hour. Say hello to Weeze against Mark Cullen in the semi-final of the Crucible. But yeah, I mean, Selby played the cue ball right to the bottom of the table, but this is when the 3-2 of a gap in the final would allow you to go for a shot like this, but you still need to make it in. He's going to go for the shot into the yellow pocket. He seems to be a nice line, but I thought he just about missed it. But in the end, because he was the front jaw that he was able to avoid, and he was the backhand jaw that he was playing for, the red just about, and the lack of the pace of the red as well, he just about rolled its way in, and he was able to pot that red away and into the corner. Now, he's still underrun for the blue, but he's now got a shot into the green pocket on the blue to try and get himself back down to the action. He got the blue in as well, which is never a nice little sequence of shots for you to play, and having the need to get, especially, the danger on the blue would have been a lot bigger, because apart from that red, he couldn't give anything away to Mark Selby, and that's always a bit of a lottery where the red's going to finish. But here, he was obviously leaving that cue ball for the red into the right corner, so you missed the blue. Selby's going to say thank you very much, and I'm going to have a chance to start my own break with the rest. And instead, it's going to be, well, I was going to say a chance for the pawn, but as soon as I've seen his reaction, and as soon as I've seen the position on the blue, I think he's now going to have to be the brown or nothing, because he can take the blue there, but with him being on the wrong side of it, I don't think you're going to be able to sort of do a lot with it. Maybe trying to do a Mark Selby shot after the blue, just trying to be on top of the yellow, on top of the red, right next to the yellow, push the red down the table, hopefully for him, into the main bunch of the reds as well, hoping that he would leave one of the reds to be over the pocket, whilst getting the cue ball to be right in behind of the yellow. We'll see how well he plays that shot, but I don't think he's going to try and play this one with the idea of spraying reds away from each other. I think he's just going to have to try and play the red down to the lower end of the table, because he can't really risk playing this shot with too much power, because he could always miss all of them and see the red to go from down the table to all the way to the top, which is not going to be something that he's going to be looking for. But that was reckless, and that was boundary on why would you play that shot. I mean, he's actually played in behind of a red to get himself a chance to pot it into the corner, but I mean, he was nowhere near a prime position to be taking that red on. But at the same time, I suppose it was justified to a decent extent, but I just don't really see the value in taking that red on there, because, you know, he's still going to be lined up on one colour, which will be one attempt for you to try and make any sort of progress into the reds. And he could have easily, since he played that shot with so much power, the red could have easily gone anywhere. So it wasn't the smartest shot that he played. He didn't have to pay too much of a price for that. But he's still going to leave an easy safety shot to Mark Selby to play. And now he's going to have to find himself in a position where he needs to recover here. And his recovery is going to be consisting of probably seeing the edge of the red onto the right side rail. Keep the pressure and don't let him get up. Stay ahead and make every move count. Thank you very much, Letitia. Appreciate that. So we'll see what's going to happen here then. Can he get through the gap in between the yellow and brown and just edge that red away and into the lower end of the table? Because if he gets that in, plenty of backspin, he should be able to just hold the cue ball anyway towards the ball cushion. So play that shot well. I don't really understand, because his body language was suggesting that like he's about to play one of the biggest shots of his life there, but it was always seemingly like he can't get it wrong on the cue ball, and as long as you don't play it with a reckless amount of power, you're never really going to leave a red over the corner, which is exactly what he's done. And I think this shot is far better than, you know, taking that red available to him into the right corner, which was the previous shot that he's played, which could have put him on the back foot but didn't. Now Selby is going to have to find for a very thin shot on the cross double, thin in terms of the leeway that he's going to get to himself. And also, he caught the ball cushion. Sorry, not the ball cushion. He can't catch the ball cushion. He caught the jaw of the middle pocket. And that might have actually... I mean, it would not have helped Nippon Saengkham. It would not have helped Selby massively, because I think, if anything, it might have helped Saengkham if he can go for the red in the attacking fashion. But I'm pretty sure he's just going to play very thin off that red, get it to the center of the table, and at the same time try and position the cue ball. So being behind the brown, lovely safety shot there. Really well played. He could have got a little bit more power on that, but he can't be too greedy with it, because the easiest shot would have always been the reds on the right hand side of the table, and he certainly managed to cover up every single one of those. So now it will leave a very precise shot to be needed on the red to be taken into the main bunch of the reds, and therefore just try and find himself with a shot in towards the left side cushion having to be played. Selby usually takes those shots for fun, but you never quite know with what's going to happen here. I tell you what, he certainly didn't play that shot as well as he wanted to. Now, is there a chance, and is there going to be room for Nippon to go for this red into the corner? Well, it's an interesting question, that, because the red next to the green will go, the red next to the pink will go into the right corner, but you never seem to see the players to be taking the red like that on, because you are going to be playing the cue ball into the unknown, and that's not really something that you want to be doing in the final of a ranking event, especially as being the underdog, even though you are going to be 3-2 up. But how far you're going to be able to hold on to that lead? He needs the brown to come into the play, and he might have done that. Well, I'll tell you what, that was crucial there, because he would have been leaving a red over the pocket. He just managed to bring the black into play as well. So Selby here, as I say, I think that has been the tendency, and I don't really think Selby's got that brilliant advantage over Saengkham when it comes down to safeties, because I think the response from Saengkham has been really solid there. And to me, it's either a 50-50 when it comes down to safety shots, or it's actually going to be 55-45 in Nippon Saengkham's point of view. Come on, Nippon, game on. Come on, Nippon, game on. Seems to be plenty ons there, but certainly rhymes. But Selby, I tell you what, he's not really going to be enjoying this, because I think this final is starting to get away from him slightly. There's no need to panic just yet, but there will be a little bit of a need to perform if he loses this frame as well, which for now, 12 points down, not a problem. Being a safety shot down is certainly a problem. So this time, of course, he's got the right-hand side of the reds to be available. He decided just to try and roll up to them, which, you know, is a safety thing that he can work out in your favour sometimes. But I think Selby has done a horrible blunder, and I think he's played that shot with way too much power. The cue ball is now going to be way too low, which now means he's going to have the red next to the black ball spot to be available, which is the worst thing that he could have done. Because no matter how bad his safety shot would have been, at least he would have forced Nippon to be having a long raid to be taken. Right now, he's left the red on the plate for him. And I tell you what, we are seeing a bit of a switch in the play here. Naporn Saengkham seems to be doing everything right. And Selby, it doesn't seem like he's got everything to be going his way for now. 13 points of a lead here for Naporn Saengkham, and he's got a chance of trying to extend that lead even further, of course. As he's got the brown and green to choose from. He's going to go for the brown. So just carefully take the cue ball on towards the right side rail. Hopefully jump away from it as well. And now we got two options to play with. He's got a raid into the left corner, which was certainly the one that Selby was trying so desperately not to leave for him. Or he's got a raid underneath the pack into the right corner to be taken. Either one is fine. I think the raid into the right corner is a little bit easier to find a colour from, which is the reason why he's going for it now. So backspin, and then he's going to have the blue, hopefully being top side of it, which won't be the case, or the black as the alternative for it to be on the right-hand side of the table. But yeah, I mean, it's still a close position here because he's got two more reds after the blue, and then he's going to have to, you know, start inventing something, but he probably needs the black in its own position here, and I think he needs it now. So I think he's going to have to go for the black because, well, getting the blue into the middle is going to give you guaranteed 5 points. But, I mean, first of all, you'll put the cue ball to be further away from the red than you want to. But also, I mean, you are just leaving yourself with more and more work to do. And he seems to have left himself further away from the red on purpose so that he gives himself a better angle. But I have to say, I don't really understand what he's doing here because to make contact onto the reds from the blue is going to be very, very difficult. But also he just needs to try and get this red in first. Well, he's done two things really well here. Is that he got the red in, which wasn't a gimme, but also he got the top side of a blue very comfortably indeed. So if he's going to have any sort of chance of trying to split the reds from the blue, I think he may not get a better chance than this. Even though he's got one more loose red to play for, I think he's going to have to leave that one for later because, as I say, purely on the angle, he's got a perfect chance to catch the pink fully in the face. Unlucky. Very, very unlucky there, but he might have been a little bit fortunate at the end. He spotted the reds alongside the blue, but I don't think he's left any of those reds to be available. He played that shot perfectly well. Honestly, he got a horrible split, but he could not have played it any better, which doesn't really make sense. He caught the pink about as well as he could have, but, you know, just potting the red into the left corner didn't really help, but at the same time, I think something that would have certainly helped is that he doesn't leave a chance away for Selby, and the position is still going to be very close, in spite of him playing a brilliant shot on the previous time. So, breaks of 12, and, well, a foul shot of 5 points is going to be the end of Naporn Saengkham, which will leave him down to 19 points as the advantage, and ultimately still looking at a safety battle to be had now from Naporn Saengkham and Mark Selby. Good form, Naporn. We'll see, because, yeah, as I say, it was very unfortunate to pot that red into the corner, because I don't really think he, or certainly me, would have spotted a plant that was available to be getting too close towards the right corner. But for now, he's going to have plenty of reds to choose from at the right corner. But I think the distance in between the cue and those reds is going to probably, I was going to say, force him to be thinking against it. But what's the alternative then? Because what can he actually achieve with all the other reds? Because he's going to have to find a way of trying to play a safety shot. And with the left-hand side of the table to be completely covered up, he may actually be his genuine best chance of trying to, you know, get out of this situation is by potting a red. But I have to say, he's been playing those shots really well. He's going to miss it at some point. Not at this point, though. Surely he can't get unlucky on the black. The show in the replay, but I would be a lot more focused what happened with the cue ball. Well, he seems like he's full of hope. They still haven't shown the table. And, well, he's right in behind the black. I tell you what, I'm not going to say he could not have worked out better, because he still needs to get the black in, and it's very, very congested in relation to what can you achieve with the cue ball. He got the black in, but it was always going to happen like that. Unfortunately, he just got the cue ball straight into the pack, which I think was something that he had to do. I don't think he had another choice, and I also think he's not going to have a choice right now of any reds to play for. He might go for the one into the right corner, but from this angle, you can't really see if he can get through to that red, but I mean, the problem is he can't really tell because he's got another red on that right part of the table, which he can play an easy safety shot from. But I think he's taking this on, you know. He did. He potted the red, but he's lost the cue ball after a touch from the blue. And, well, he's still on the yellow, but you feel like he's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. And at some point, that skill of playing all the good shots is going to run out of him. I did warn you. He's still going to go for the yellow, it would seem. He's a very attacking player, as he has been recently. He's going to go for the blue, actually, which is even more surprising because he's committed to be taking an easier shot now and a more difficult red later, which I have to say surprised me a little bit. I thought the whole point of taking the yellow is that it will take you towards the reds, but I suppose the contrasting point is that you still would have been playing for the same red and not really making his life any easier on that. So, we'll see what's going to happen here then. He needs one more good shot. This one could actually get him into a very good position on the black. And it's not quite as difficult as some of the previous shots that he's played, but it's still a very delicate red, which you have to drop into the corner, and he did. He was playing around the paint, but this time around he is going to be perfectly lined up for the collar, although I still have to say he's got a little bit of work to do to get on the next red. The position is still very, very closed. But as I say, being lined up perfectly on the pink, he's going to be a helping hand to you. Now, is he going to get something? He's going to get plenty of it. And Naporn Saengkham, he's going to be here to play. And I tell you what, he is genuinely going to be a threat to Selby in this first session. Because he's played some brilliant snooker in those three frames that he's won. He's made some really good snooker in the second frame as well. And you have to say, 4-2 will probably be about as good as Selby can hope for. I still think he hasn't scored any points since the intermission, which would be very much smelling of Stuart Bingham's performance against himself yesterday. But Naporn Saengkham ain't going to care about that one too much. He now finds himself 41 points clear and seemingly in charge of this frame and therefore of the match as well. Bottle Naporn wants win. Well, yeah, I tell you what, I was absolutely against some of the shots that he was playing because I felt like at some point his luck is going to run out, and in the end he was going to pay a huge price for it, but he didn't. And now he gets himself to the final corner of this red, and then once he pots this red along the black will cushion, he's going to be at the finish line in no time at all, with the black and the next red being the frame ball. But it's a little bit surprised that he had to play for this red in the first place. But you don't have to be surprised with him here, because you're going to have to use only one of your hands to count the misses that he's had in the 6 frames that he's played. And I think you're going to have to start saying 6 here, because the black will put him 57 points clear with 59 on the table, and the red will put him very much over the finish line there. So, a brilliant frame from Naporn Saengkham. Of course, sorry, I didn't realize that Selby won 5 points. But of course, the 5 points that he scored were down from a foul shot, which was super unfortunate there from Naporn. But it didn't stop him. And now, 37 points later, he does find himself in complete charge of the first session. And we do have a match in our hands. And we do have a 4-2 of a lead in our hands as well. As Naporn Saengkham take a bow, he's certainly managed to outperform my expectations. But also, you can't really blame Selby for this. He hasn't done a lot of things wrong. It's just that Saengkham has done a lot of things right. And when I say a lot, his long shots have been brilliant. His positional play has still been awful, but his ability to recover from the positional play to be way below the standard has certainly been brilliant there. And I tell you what, even though he's not able to make a century break, what a break this has been. 51 points in counting. Absolute masterclass there for Naporn. You are genuinely feeling that if this was Selby, you were saying, well, it's exactly what he expected there. Brilliant from him, but you have to give as much of the acknowledgement there before he missed that red. He deserves a little bit less acknowledgement for that, but he's not going to care about that one too much. It's a break of 51 points, which will get him yet another frame win. Selby's not going to have any point to try and carry on in this 6th frame. Great coverage, hit the like button, folks, it helps. Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you very much, everyone, to be tuning into the stream. feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We are going to have the second session no matter what happens, but I tell you what, no matter what happens, we are genuinely going to have a very exciting second session on our hands, because I just hope there is going to be one more frame that the pawn can win, and then I don't ask for anything else. That's all I ask for. The pawn to win 5 frames at least in the first session, and I'm not going to ask anything for the rest of the match, because that way it would set up a brilliant second session no matter what happens. Because for the pawn to win the match, he's still going to have to be at the top of his game, and for Selby to come back, he's going to have to completely outroar, outplay and outscore Napan Saengkham, which is something we haven't seen in pretty much 5 out of those 6 frames, even though Selby was able to win 2 of them, which just leaves you with how well Saengkham has actually played. But as I said beforehand, you can't really blame Selby. He's played some really good stuff. He's played not so good stuff as well. But since the intermission, that chair has been pretty much empty for him, or rather full, because he had to spend majority of those 2 frames sat in his chair, not doing anything wrong or doing anything right. Because when he plays a decent safety shot, Saengkham seems like, well, all right, I see that, and I'm gonna try and raise it to a whole new level. And then when Selby plays another decent safety shot, Saengkham says, all right, and then I'll go for a long raid. I'll make that one in brilliantly well. I'll be on the colour, and despite that horrible, unlucky moment on the blue where he potted the blue on the red, it didn't really stop him from conceding any, I emphasize, any points away to Mark Selby in the first 2 frames. I tell you what, there's not many players that are going to be doing that throughout this tournament. Selby lost 7 frames in the 4 matches that he's played. He's lost 4 in the first 6. And Napan is certainly going to get himself into that lead. Let's hope Napan doesn't go into protecting mode. I think it's a brilliant thing, because I don't think it will. Based on what we've seen against Trump, based on what we've seen against Murphy or Sullivan, he did... I don't want to say he did that against Joe, because he was in a bit of a position of Selby. He just didn't do anything when he had a 5-3 lead. He just didn't do anything in the frame number 9. He had a chance in frame number 10, but he got a little bit unlucky, and also down to himself to blame, trying to split the pack on 32 points. But yeah, I don't think he went into defensive mode in any of the matches. I certainly watched... well, all of them actually, because I thought, Trump was going to be the one to watch. Then I thought Ronnie was going to be the one to watch. And then I thought, well, what's going to happen with Saengkham against Murphy? And then, all of a sudden you're through to the semi-final and you've got no clue what's going to happen. But yeah, I think this red that Selby has left on a pawn, we know what's going to happen, because when this guy gets himself into momentum, it's impossible to stop him. And he's going to be full of confidence. If you know the shots that he's been taking on against... oh, that is nasty though. That is straight. That is on the cushion. It may be 1 step too far. And he was 1 step too far. Let's see if the luck is going to be on his side. He was supposedly only likely to leave the red that he was playing for over the corner. And that's exactly what's happened. Hasn't happened. He didn't leave anything away. But that was a little bit ambitious, but... I think that answers Kevin's question in the best possible manner. He's absolutely not going to do that. If anything, I think he may not be doing that too much, because I think he needs to take his foot off the pedal a little bit, but he's just going to carry on, shift it to the next gear until he's going to reach his destination. Defensive mode against Selby, not sure that's the best idea, exactly. But also you have to say, defensive mode from the pawn, not sure that's going to happen. Selby there, I'm not going to say he's all over the place, but I'm also not going to say he's had control of that red. He did finish right in below the blue. But when I say right below the blue, that's alongside the middle, basically. Which means that could have easily left the red available. And, one thing about the pawn is that he's not necessarily one of those players which is going to be like Weezer, Jack Lisowski, or, to a certain extent, Zhao Xington, which will go for everything that's moving. But he didn't play a good safety shot there. And he's left the corridor for a difficult red, absolutely, for Selby. And one thing you have to say about Joey Long is that when he was 5-3 down, he did have to go for those reds, and he was do or die. It's not do or die here for Selby when it comes down to the overall picture in the final. But when it comes down to this session, it is a little bit do or die. Because if he misses the shot right now, and he leaves the red in this position, you may be looking at a 5-2 deficit. Not to be too far away from you. Yes, Selby wants that, but Napan's too wise, I hope. Yeah, but I'm not sure if you're going to call that too wise, but I think he's not going to be doing that. And, well, Selby, I tell you what, I don't really understand what's happening with him, because he just tried to play that shot defensively, but as soon as he hit the cue ball, he sort of lost control of it. And, well, are we seeing a bit of a one-sided final for now? I think it's probably too early to be saying that, but Saengkham, he's not going to have the easiest of introductions. But I tell you what, if you're a neutral, you might have to get worried about Selby pretty soon, because Napon has just taken that red through no doubt at all. And I am genuinely starting to get worried about Selby, which I never thought I'd say, no matter what happened in those first 6 frames. But I tell you what, Napon is playing some brilliant snooker, and he's got himself a really good position, as I said. If Selby went for that red into the corner and missed it, it would have been a really good opportunity for Saengkham. But the problem for Selby is that he wasn't even trying to go for a long red. He was trying to get a cross double, which, how many of those have we seen Selby to misjudge? But Napon there, I think he underrun slightly for the black, and I think he wasn't really able to recover on the shot on the red. So he's still going to go for a topspin shot, which I'm not sure is the right way forward, but he's proven me wrong so far in this match. And it's not bad. It's not great. He's way too high on the black than he would have liked to be, but he should be marginally okay, especially since you look at his CV of scoring in the previous frames. Napon's win-win. Yeah, I mean, get the black in. You're going to have so many reds available to you that you're going to be spoiled for choice. But get the black in first, which you will. And let's see, how about spoiled for choice? Well, he won't be spoiled for choice because he only got 1 red now, but I mean, that's down to him being way too high on the black there. I mean, this is genuinely turning out to be a brilliant start to the final for Napon Saengkham, and he is starting to run away with it, which is incredible to be saying, but still seems like his face is full of concentration. There was a bit of a shake of the hand, but it may be just down to the way that you have to hold the rest in the air, which for me always makes it to be a little bit shaky. But yeah, I mean, nothing shaky about his game. Everything is very stable, everything is very controlled, and the position just seems like it's going to be giving him a bit of a smile here as well, because I think it's the best position that he had in the whole match, frankly, which is brilliant, and he just made it even better than the best that he's had in the whole match, trying to send that cue ball into the bunch of reds, knew he was going to have a red available to the left corner. And one thing which, of course, is mythical, phantom, and fantasy world, is that something that you should remember about the player from Thailand last season in the final was a little break called a 147 from Chipchayanu. And as I said, it's a fantasy and it's a myth. But if you're going to repeat the story of beating Watchalong, then beating Ronnie in the next round, make sure you do that in full. And even though this position is still nowhere near good enough for a 147, because there are 2 reds that are out of position, but it's certainly bloody brilliant for you to be winning this frame without leaving a sniff away to Mark Selby, which is brilliant. The only player with amazing double is Higgins. I call that a Higgins for my part, so no blame on Selby. That's an awful hard shot. No, well, not really. I think it's one of the easiest shots. I mean, I think he might be thinking about an actual double into the middle. He was trying to play a cross double, but I'm not really going to say that's the hard shot there, because I think for me, it's one of the easiest shots to play. It depends on what angle you have on the cue ball, but Selby had plenty of that there. One thing I would say, I think he had a red on the side cushion, and he had to be wary of that. That's why he had to put so much side spin on it. So he basically gets the cue ball to be going from point A to point B, and then he needs to backspin the cue ball in a way so that he goes exactly in a straight line to point A. Managing the angles with cushions. Don't really know what you mean by that, to be honest. Challenging. Yeah, but not really challenging though, is it? When you talk about a double kiss. No, not really. Not to me. I mean, sometimes it could be down to a bit of a challenge trying to put a red over the corner, but I don't think that's a challenge for... The only thing that can go wrong for you is a double kiss. And Selby did that a little bit differently, where he was able to get the cue ball away from the red, but as they sort of met in the middle, which doesn't happen very often, which probably for me suggests that he was trying to do a little bit more spin work on the cue ball, which may just suggest that he was down to a very limited area that he was playing through. But once again, we don't have to, argue about it too much. I just think it depends on a type of a cross double. One of them is going to be the easiest shot in the world. One of them, as for Selby, was one of the most challenging that, he had available to him. So, yeah, I think you may well be right about it, but I never really found them too difficult from either playing or watching, to be fair, because, you don't really play them if they're not available for you. That's probably the bottom line. But listen, we can try and concentrate on a little maximum break, and we can switch off the concentration for that, because as soon as I open my mouth, he has now run himself out of position, not only on the black, but on the colours as well. And that's nasty, because he was going on so nicely indeed. There was nothing to be worried about, but as soon as he had that red into the middle, he clearly was aware of him playing all shots with the black, and, well, he's got two options here. Not double kiss, double shots, indeed, most of the time with central pouches, sometimes on the table. Yeah, absolutely. No, Letitia, that's completely different. Selby was playing, he had the cue ball at the ball cushion, and by the way, Higgins is by far the best for that, for doubles. He had the red at the ball cushion, and he had the cue ball at the ball cushion next to the yellow spot. He had the red on the right side cushion diagonally across the entire table. What he had to do is to bring the cue ball to the top part of the table. He wasn't able to do that because he got double kits. When it comes to the doubles, absolutely by a mile. It is a difficult shot, by the way, because you never know what's going to happen. It's very difficult for you to judge the pace because it compromises the line massively. I never believed it when I first seen it. If you play a double with 100% of the power, it's never going to go in, by the way. I'm just saying, pretty much never. Off two cushions especially, but even off one, it is so difficult for you to judge. Of 80 or 90, it's fine, but when you just thrash it, you're never going to get anywhere with that. And I think majority of the doubles have to be taken with a power like 70 or 80%, because you need to make sure you leave a little bit of leeway for you. If you miss it, you need to leave a little bit of a power for the red to bounce away from the side cushion. But what a change has it been. Selby has got into the intermission with 235 points. He's now finding himself on 240 points, whilst the Saengkham has got 390, and being 2-4 down, now being 57 points down as well. As I say, we're probably entering the stage where you may have to get a little bit worried about Mark Selby here, because Saengkham has played a risky shot of leaving a red into the left corner, but I think he's managed to cover that one away with another red. And therefore, he just leaves an extra problem there for Mark Selby, because he's going to have to be very much aware of that red as well. And one thing I would say about Napon is that I'm absolutely baffled how he manages to be one step ahead of Selby every single time, which baffles me completely. And now, he might have left Selby to be going for one of the most difficult long reds he's gone for in the entire match. Let's see if he makes this one in. And he doesn't. No surprise there. It was an incredibly difficult shot. He nearly dropped the cue ball into the right corner. He's caught plenty of the reds. He didn't leave an easy chance away, but he still left the red available to the left middle. Big frame for Selby, this one. I think you're going to have to start saying next one, because once again, it's a one-shot shootout now for Saengkham. If he wants to take that shootout on, he doesn't have to. I would fancy him to go for this red now and make it, but at the same time, if he misses it, would you fancy Selby to clear up? You never want to test it, to be fair. But I wouldn't really. From the neutral's perspective, I don't really fancy him to clear up in this situation, because I think he should go for this raid. But he clearly doesn't think so. And, yeah, as I say, the thing that he doesn't want to do now is to give, a little bit too much respect for Selby. I think that's one of the most dangerous things for you to do, is to try and adjust your game based on the scoreline. You have to adjust your game based on how well you're playing. For me, always. If you're not making those shots in, you have to stop trying them until you get yourself in a position where you have improved. If you are making everything, which he is right now, it's not an impossible shot into the middle, and the only thing that makes it difficult is the cue ball being away from the red and being close to the corner. I think he has to go for it, and then if he misses it, that's so be it. But if he misses it, he needs to try and leave the cue ball quite close towards the top side of a bulk line. But I think he has to go for it. I'm surprised that after 90 seconds he's still going to go for it, but it does seem like the decision is made. But one thing I will say, the longer you take on those shots, the lesser of a chance you have on making them in. But yeah, well, he didn't make it in. But as I say, he played the cue ball well beyond the bulk line, and he's managed to get away with it 100% out there. But yeah, never a nice shot, never a nice thing to be second guessing yourself, and very few shots where you take more than a minute on to try and attack, and you still find yourself with a chance of trying to pot them. Yes, push on. Well, yeah, but once again, he was a fine margin of a shot. He didn't manage to take that one in, but he hasn't left anything for Selby, and he's compromised the blue. He's compromised another red, which was the one that he was playing for, and it's not like he's left an easy safety shot for Selby. And yeah, he's got an opportunity of trying to just bounce that red away from the ball cushion, get the cue ball somewhat in behind the blue, which of course would improve the position of the blue as well, which I think at this stage, the blue is a very important colour for Selby, because he will need both the blue and the pink. And when the blue is at the ball cushion, let's just put it nicely, it's not easy for you to find your way from the blue on towards the pink. It's probably one of the most difficult shots, positionally wise, that you can play, especially when not having reds to interfere with. So certainly going to try and improve the position of the blue, but also trying to improve the position of the red. Not really touching the blue, which was a little bit surprising, but I mean, it is Selby. He's not really going to be thinking about trying to win the frame in one visit to the table. I think he's just going to have to try and deal with the issues as they come to him, but yeah, I think Saengkham has got a red which is very much asking for it to be played. A very gentle shot on the left-hand side of it and just push it down to the side rail. I was somewhat expecting the scoreline. I was absolutely not expecting the scoreline. I was expecting maybe 5-2 in terms of Selby, but the fact that Saengkham is now approaching 5-2 of a lead for himself is absolutely not something that I expected. And a great shot there from Saengkham, and I think that might be something that Selby wasn't really, a fan of, because he always knew when you've got two reds at the top end of the table and you have to get rid of one of them, whenever there is a player that's only got one red at the top part of the table, he's always got a huge advantage, because if he gets a shot on that red, he pushes it away, the other player doesn't have any more reds, and he's going to have to go the long way around to the lower end of the table. The bookies and Selby a massive favourite. The pond bettors will be happy so far. Was not expecting the scoreline. Geez, exactly my reaction. But the frame is not over yet. Selby played once again, cross double, brilliantly taken. And the cue ball is now going to be lined up very nicely indeed at the top edge of the table. Not too close to the ball cushion, but ultimately I think his target was to try and cover up the red next to the yellow, which I thought he has done, but I don't think he has. Which is not really going to have any risks of Napon trying to go for that red in relation to potting it. Although for a second there I thought he might actually prove me wrong. But I don't think he played that shot well at all. For the chance that he had of playing the cue ball so close towards the ball cushion, that is a waste of a shot. And I'm not going to say he's left under the plate, because Selby has been struggling recently with those long shots, but I think he's going to have to take this one on, because this is about as much of a plate for a long shot as it can be, because it's a long way out of the pocket, but you can place your hand on the table, and you can find yourself to be, well, you might just about be able to place his hand on the table. No, he can't, as he's going for a safety shot anyway. So doesn't fancy his chances and doesn't want to be taking too many risks when he comes down to being 57 points behind. Still, played a very careful cut into the left corner whilst bringing the cue ball up the table. But I don't think Napon is going to be that generous again. And I think himself, he will try and go for one of those reds into the corner. The question is, which one? Yes, I fancied Napon as he wants his first tournament big time. Yeah, but I mean, you can always fancy someone, but I never thought we were going to see Napon Saengkham outplaying Selby on every single one of the departments, apart from maybe the positional play. But I think his positional play has improved in the last two frames as well. So, yeah. Safeties, Napon has got the edge, just about, or is 50-50. Long shots, Napon absolutely is better. Pot success, once again, he's better. And when it comes down to being more clinical, he is going to be taking the lead in that aspect of the game as well. But it's a long shot, which is more difficult than the one that Selby has refused. 57 points is going to help him, but missing a red won't. And let's see where the red is now going to finish. He's going to finish Not on the plate, but very much close to Mark Selby here. So this is the chance that he needs to take very, very seriously, because it could well be the last chance of him to be, level on the score sheet before the 10th frame. Desire goes a long way in winning. I agree, but I don't think Selby's going to be the one lacking motivation either. But he's got an opportunity here, and he's got that red in as well. The problem is I wouldn't really be getting worried too much now if I was on the Saengkham's team, because there's still 4 reds which are in a relatively easy position, and there's 3 massive issues that Selby will have to encounter, along with some of the other awkward things as well, such as he's got a red lined up for him now into the middle, which is the perfect shot to play, but all of a sudden he's got no blue. The blue and 2 more reds are going to be the 3 issues that I mentioned. One of them may be able to get a status of an awkward one rather than a problem, because he can be taken along the black ball cushion. But I suppose if you treat those 3 individually, they're not as much of a trouble as they could have been in relatively different circumstances. Because if you think about it, as I say, the blue is possible along the ball cushion, but it's just the transition onto the pink, which is a problem. Then I've mentioned the second red, and the lowest of them all on the black ball cushion is going to be possible, because it's still relatively close towards the right corner. And if it's perfectly on the cushion, it probably is not going to be that much of an issue. And then the third issue of the red on the left side cushion is close enough to the middle where if you nudge it and you judge the power well, you may be able to put that one over the middle. So once again, if you treat them individually, there may not be as much of an issue, but altogether, I think there will be a stumbling block, at least on one of those things, for Mark Selby out there. Who have seen Chichaya overpowered Ronnie? Same scenario, and that nice to have surprises on the championship. Always the same guys who've not have seen. Yeah, I mean, that Chichaya performance is still, well, I mean, you can't really compare because we've only seen 6.5 frames here, and 6.5 frames were really poor from Chichaya. I know he won 2 of them, but 3 actually, when you think about 7 frames. But I mean, Ronnie just seemed like he's gone from being absolute king of the world with 4-0 of a lead to absolutely falling off the cliff ever since the intermission, which sort of happened with Selby, as he's now trying to get his first points on the board. The first points, by the way, that he scored of those break of 24 since the intermission. In the previous 2 frames, he had 5 points, which came from foul shot on the blue, and now 33 points down, 51 at the table. So, as I say, he will need the pink as the frame ball, and he's got the line now to try and get the cue ball off one red into another, trying to put that one over the corner pocket. He needed to be careful that he didn't compromise himself too much on the positional play on the pink, or sort of taking his eye too much off the red to be taken. So I think he's managed to sort out that red. It's now going to be close enough to the middle. So that's probably going to be the second biggest issue out of the way. Nopon is having help from Ebden. Always going to be good to have him on side. Exactly. I mean, Ebden seems to have helped a lot of players there. I mean, if he's helped Murphy to win the British Open and get himself into the World Championship, you know, he's now helping Nopon Saengkham there. I wonder if I get a coach of Ebden, am I going to be able to get 1 frame away from Zhao Xington? Or is that going to be too much to ask? Anyway, Selby here is able to take the pink into the corner, and he's now able to get himself lined up for the red. But there is still an issue of he's going to take this red, probably no problem, but where's the colour going to be? The one that he's going to transition him all the way towards the lower end of the table. And the answer is, he's going to try and do that from the green, which is not easy. Which is not easy at all. So 25 points back, 38 at the table, if you count the green as the colour that he'll go for. But 35, of course, with the red. So he's still going very nicely indeed, but he's going to go for the brown. So technically 49 points at the table. Not sure. He's going to have to play this one perfectly spot on. 1, 2, 3 cushions. He's going to need the 4th one. And I think he's going to land on the top of the red, which is, well, he just about skid off the top of the red. And how close he is to that red. He might have actually played a brilliant shot there. It is close. I wonder how straight he is on that red as well, because he still needs the perfect position on the black. But he's given himself a chance. The problem is, the red has to go in. And he did. I think once again that was pretty fortunate for him because he caught the jaw, he caught the cushion way too close there to the contact point in between the actual position of the raid. So, you know, once again, pockets in Leicester probably would not have forgiven that. But we're not in Leicester. And Selby is going to have to roll that cue ball more than that. He's alright, but he's still a little bit on the edge there. Now, he's managed to sort out two issues. Apart from being awkward on the yellow, he's only got that transition from the blue onto the pink, which should be the frame ball. I don't think it's going to matter, but he might actually need the black as well, because he's going to be 1 point clear. Yeah, so the pink will get him onto a respot, guaranteed, and the black is still going to be needed there. So he should keep that in the back of his mind, because sometimes you're going to be running a little bit too high. Or is he going to try and bring the blue into play right now from the yellow? Not on this occasion. So he's going to leave it very much until the end. It's a massive frame here for Selby. But at the same time, it could turn out to be just as much of a frame for Naporn Saengkham if he loses it. So, 5 colours in between Mark Selby and Naporn Saengkham. This is, of course, the penultimate frame of the first session. And let's see the way the session is going to end. He's going to be top side of a brown, which is obviously logical. Now the question is he going to try and bring the blue into play and risk for him to be out of position, rather than having to play that blue along the cushion and risk leaving that one over the pocket? There is going to be power, but there's always going to be power. He's trying to bring that blue into play. I mean, he did help himself a little bit, but not massively. I mean, it's an easier position than he would have been lined up at any stage, because the blue is now closer to the pocket through 5 or 10 centimeters, but I think the angle on the pink is going to be far from an ideal one if he gets any sort of angle. And of course, you know, the thing about Saengkham is that if he comes back to the table, he's very, very likely to have that blue to be over the pocket, which is not going to be improving the mood of Mark Selby. Well, what would you do? It does remind you a little bit of that yellow that Weezer's taken in the World Championship semis. And, well, I don't think that was an attempt of a pot because of how far Selby was, and certainly how close the cue ball was towards being behind the black and the pink. It was very, very good effort. He wasn't quite going to work out on this occasion. So then, I think it doesn't really matter here, the 4 points advantage for Naporn, apart from, you know, Selby will need the pink and the black, and Naporn will need the blue and the pink. I mean, when I say Selby will need the pink and the black, of course I mean the blue as well. But he can't afford to be leaving Saengkham the blue as long as he doesn't get his hands on the pink. But for Selby, getting 2 of those colours will only mean a respot guaranteed. And of course on Naporn, it will mean a 5-2 of a lead to be guaranteed very much to him as well. So then, this is a safety battle, and I think it's probably going to be very much the right way to decide on who's going to be the winner of the frame, and could also be the winner of the whole session. In case of Naporn winning this frame, he's going to get himself 5-3 of a lead in the worst case scenario, which is going to be a very nice position for him to be at after the opening 7 frames, as we're now approaching the 3-hour mark of the first session. Still 1 more frame to play after this one, so should be just about on schedule with around 3.5 hours. And smart shot there from Naporn. Or is it? I mean, I was just about to say it's a smart shot trying to put the black into the black ball cushion, but at the same time, he has sort of took the eye off the cue ball safety a little bit. And, you know, getting that black a little bit safer there will certainly help, but I don't think he got a lot of safety on that. And also, he certainly left this blue to be available to be taken into the yellow pocket. So, long shots not really going in for Selby, but we all know about his brilliance when he needs to be at his best. But not on this occasion. He's not even going to attempt the long shot, and just going to carefully try and make that blue to go past the pink. So let's see how close he's going to be relative to the black there. Well, I think Naporn is asking for it here. I think Selby is actually asking for it. And Naporn is going to see that sign. I think he needs to play the blue into the black with controlled pace, because that way he could force Selby into some real trouble, because not only is he going to be putting the black somewhere random at the table, but he can also play a really good safety, which would get the blue safe. Yes, he needs to play that shot well, but I mean, unless he mishits it completely, I can't really see the scenario where he's going to leave the blue to be over the pocket. So I would still say it's going to be worth it for him. But, you know, as I say, the longer he thinks about it, the more, you know, complicated shot he's going to be. Grinder at work? No, I don't really think so. I think it's just, you know, not really. I think Selby has done really well to make that break of 53 points. And the fact that he's now got himself a chance to be fighting for this frame is very impressive. And, you know, being only 4 points down is even more impressive here. But let's see. This shot could well turn the frame into his favour or against him. No, that's a bad shot. It's a bad shot, and it's a very bad shot as well. Well, thinking long and hard about it, as I said, the longer you think about those type of shots, the less likely you come away with something good as a result. And he didn't push that blue anywhere near enough to be on the side cushion. It's still not an easy shot, but the bottom line is it shouldn't even be considered by Selby. And he's not just going to be considered, he's going to be taken on there no matter what happens. No matter who you are. Peter Ebdon will take a shot like that on. So let's see. I mean, as I say that, Selby refuses it. I mean, that is baffling to me. But okay. Don't know why he's done that. But yeah, I mean, okay. Clearly, he felt like that wasn't the case, but very interesting decision. For a big frame both ways. Well, yeah, but I'm still trying to recover with what's happened. But, you know, maybe Selby thinks he's going to get a better chance than that. But I wouldn't really bet to it. Because that that blue was nowhere near the side cushion. The cue ball was nowhere near the side cushion. And it was one of those diagonal shots there. You know, the angle would have been drawing itself on the pink. But Selby clearly didn't fancy potting the blue there. Selby tightening game up well. Certainly doing that on the previous shot, but we'll see. As I say, I think it's going to be the way that he approaches his performance is going to dictate the way that he approaches the second session as well. For now, still looking at trying to take the blue towards the right middle, but obviously doesn't want to put it right over the middle. It's a good shot. He's left the cross double, but this is the cross double which I would say is quite a difficult one to judge because you never know when you hit, and I still think you have to take this one as a cross double, unless he wants to play this one straight in the face and get the cue ball to be lined up at the black ball cushion. But you lose control of the blue if you're going to be doing like that. So I think, and he has played it like that. But, I mean, yeah, basically, as I said, he was always going to get the cue ball down the table, but he's also lost the blue control a little bit there. So Selby's going to look at it. I'm not going to be sure on anything now after he refused that previous blue, but I think this one might be a little bit favourable there because it is a long shot and therefore you've got the perfect angle to try and get the cue ball down to the centre of the table. Selby's gone for it, he's missed it, and he was lucky not to leave that red over the corner pocket because of how close he was to missing it. He's gone perfectly on towards the ball cushion rather than staying on towards the green pocket there. So he was close. He wasn't on the pink anyway. The frame time is about to go over 30 minutes. And it all seems to be happening here. But, well, we'll see what's going to happen here then. Napon thinking about two options there. Taking it face full or trying to take the cue ball a little bit sideways. He's taking it face full. And too much pace on the blue. But maybe just needs it to be heading more and more to the left. Well, it's hard to say that because I think it's just about gone far enough to the left from the cue ball's perspective because it's further to the left side cushion than the cue ball. There is a long way for the blue to be dropped, but also, if you're going to be playing for the pink, you're going to be playing in the zone of danger for the blue as well. So I don't think that's going to be something that Selby goes for. He didn't. What he certainly tried to achieve is getting a snooker in behind the pink, which don't think is done. I think there is going to be the lower part of the blue which is going to be visible. Here's a question for you. What is the latest stage in the frame where the players have agreed to a re-rack? I don't know. I think I've seen plenty of jokes about it, but I remember 30... Not agree to a re-rack. You know, sometimes the referee can force pink or black. There you go. You know. So Kevin knows these things. You may as well ask him. Oh, that's interesting. Saengkham there, just trying to get the pink onto the cushion. I think he's going to be aware that he needs the pink, but I think he's a lot more focused on trying to bring the blue into the safe place. So, yeah, it does seem like the safety battle could hang on for a while, but it just shows you that both of the players have shown some great safety shots out there in between themselves. But I don't think we're going to agree to a re-rack, because I would imagine the whole point of agreeing to a re-rack on the pink and the black is that the black was covering the pocket and the pink was over the black there. And, which is weird, but, you know, I suppose that's something that's happened. And, well, Selby there inviting a shot on the double, which, is that going to be a reasonable thing to do here for Saengkham? Because he's got no chance of being on the pink, but of course it's going to be a massive difference. Right now, there is going to be a battle for the blue to get on the pink. If he's going to get the blue in, then Saengkham is only going to need the pink, but Selby is going to have to get the pink and also get the position on the black. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a double, but in the end, he was always ambitious. Now, he was trying to get the side spin to be working for the cue ball, to be somewhere near the pink. Selby was having his heart to be pounding a little bit quicker, but in the end, it's just going to be a little bit more to the right of the pink than the cue ball. So, once again, a chance to try and cut the blue into the green pocket, but this time it's going to be even tougher of a cut, and I think Selby would have learned his lesson from the previous mistake, where he was quite fortunate not to leave that blue over the pocket, and this time he's just going to try and carefully put it on towards the side rail, and yeah, I don't think there is going to be anything that Saengkham can do about it. He's just going to have to try and play the cue ball for the ball cushion. So at the same time, it is now going to be compromising the average frame time, but we've seen a couple of quick fire frames as well, and ultimately to say, it did come down to that red, which Saengkham has missed into the left middle, but that wasn't the ultimate issue. And now he's put himself into a bit of an issue. Well, Saengkham feels like he hit the blue. I didn't feel like he did. I think there is going to be a conversation between the referee from this angle. Once again, thank you, China Open, providing a relative angle. Let's have a look. They're actually going to show you the replay, which is nice of them. I don't think he hit the blue, but he clearly felt like he did. Well, I can't see it from this angle. So let's see what the referee is going to say to that. But of course it changes the dynamic a little bit, because it makes the black to be the most irrelevant colours of all time. Because now, unless there's going to be another foul, you only need the blue and the pink for both of them. But once again, let's have a look at the different angle. Let's just look at the movement of the blues, if there's going to be any. Well, I want to see that one again. I think there was, but it was the smallest of margins. So it wasn't foul and a miss, okay. Saengkham clearly sees that. Well, I'll tell you what, Selby there showing some great sportsmanship, because he's saying that Napon's decision should be the final one, because he's saying he hit the blue. Let's have a look. It's all going to the cinema now. We're going to have 4 people, the cameraman, the referee, and the 2 players to have a look at it. Let's have a look at this angle again. I mean, I don't think he's hit it. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's hit it. Let's see what they agree to, but I don't think he's hit it. Yeah, I agree with the referee. I don't think the blue has moved. I don't really understand how Saengkham is saying he thinks he's seen it. I know he was close, but I mean, you have to be absolutely sure that the blue has moved, and that's the only way you're going to know that the cue ball. Let's have a look. Let's show in the slow motion. No, I don't think he moved at all. I mean, it is about as close as it can be. So, yeah, I think now Selby's going to be happy with what he's seen, and he's going to ask for it to be a miss. So, good sportsmanship there from Selby, but in the end, I think they've done pretty well to be showing slow-mo of that. It took a little bit of a sting out of the game, but at the same time, it's now going to be 58 for Selby and 57 for Napon Saengkham. So, unless there is going to be another foul, there's going to be both pink and blue, which are going to be required for both Selby and Saengkham to try and win this frame, which already seems like it's going to be the one which will decide the outcome of the session, because you feel like if the pawn is able to win the frame from here, then it's going to be difficult to stop him in relation to taking that 5-2 and potentially even a 6-2 of a lead. When it comes down to a chance for Selby to try and get himself right back into the action, you certainly done really well to try and get him from 57 points down now to be leading by 58 to 57. And well, I'll tell you what, it's now going to be getting a little bit ridiculous because he's missed it again. And of course now it changes things again, because I think right now Saengkham is going to be the player which needs the blue and the black, the blue, the pink and the black, because he's now 6 points behind. So yeah, he will need all three colours, which is great news for him. Don't know how he went from only needing the pink and the blue to now needing all three of them without even getting a respot guarantee if he pots the previous two. So I still think he's comfortably clear, because Selby's still going to need the pink and the blue. But if he makes another foul, of course it's going to be a frame concession, which is an interesting way for him to approach this one here, because, well, what do you do? If it's going to be down to a shot on the blue to be taken, then, you know, you have to try and put that one safe. And well, I think he's going to have to consider trying to just plant the cue ball to be on the right side rail. Well, now he's going to try and hammer his way out of this situation. So a double kiss. Not a fan of it, because he was basically in hidden hope and he got away with that one. He put the blue perfectly on the side cushion. So there is going to be 6 points of an advantage here for Selby that has managed to, with what looked like a simple safety shot, turn the frame around completely, because now he's the one that only needs the blue and the pink. And Saengkham, putting the black to be safe, has now played against him as well. A one-shot touch. Well, we'll see now. It's going to be down to Selby to try and play a good safety shot of his own. He hasn't done that, and he's left the long blue to be available. Well, Saengkham needs to try and redeem himself here, and he needs to try and find himself to be in with a chance for a total clearance. He was 57-0 leading this frame. 63 points later, he's now the one that has to get all three colours into the pockets for him to be the frame winner. He gets the blue in with a really fine shot. Now, how close and how much of an angle can he get on the pink? Because he still feel like the snooker gods have written the script in a way which will see the black to be the colour to decide it all. 63, please 62. Come on, Potts. Someone speak about a re-rack in Joe match in 1-4 final, but we were not following action. And I have no... Yes, I remember. But I don't think it was early. I don't think it was late, sorry. I think that was pretty early in the frame. I'll have a look at it later, just because I'm actually curious, but I just forgot to look at it. But now, there's two shots which could be the difference between a 5-2 or a 4-3. Now then, this is where missing that blue on the second time was silly, because he didn't need the black had he not had the foul shot on the blue. The black is not easy at all, and he's going to have to probably play this with pace. He can't leave it down to fade. He can't leave it down to... He's got too much of a distance in between the cube and the black. Well, this is going to be one of the biggest shots of his life, but it's such a nasty thing for you to be seeing that front jaw to come up, and that's exactly why he needed to play that towards the front jaw. He's going to lose the frame because of that, and it always seemed likely thing to happen. And unfortunately for Saengkham, Selby, he's not going to be a charity thing here. He's going to finally put this frame to bed. And after all that work, he will be down to Mark Selby with just a careful shot on the black, which will see him to win the frame 70-68. Happy in a pawn, sad in a pawn. Well, he's gone from that to that in a couple of moments' time. But I think he's done the damage to himself with that shot on the blue, which sounds ridiculous because of how well of a long shot it was. But as soon as I seen that he was straight on the pink and he can't get any closer to the black, well, the distance that he left himself was a suicide shot. I mean, you always have to back yourself, but to me, the best chance for him to get anything out of that was genuinely to try and miss the black. like try and put it into the front jaw as much as you can and just leave that cue ball into the middle of the ball cushion or even further to the corner so that the black will go towards the top part of the table. Because I genuinely couldn't see him missing that shot. And the problem with shots along the cushion is that if you miss them and you've played them along the cushion, well, where's he going to come back? It's always going to come back into your path. Or he's going to stay in the pocket. Either one of those scenarios. It wasn't great for Saengkham. And now it's going to be Selby to win that 7th frame. And now put himself just 1 frame away from making it a 4-all draw. Which, well, I'm going to take no credit for because, as I say, you felt like he may be worried a little bit about Selby. He said, well, call an ambulance, but not for me, because 57 points down in that 7th frame, and he was out and out of position. 63 points he was able to score without the response, and after that, Napon was able to make a very good sequence of 2 shots, which were great shots on the pink and the blue, but in the end, they meant absolutely nothing, and that's why sometimes making a stupid mistake like he has done, and I think there's no doubt about it, on the blue, missing it once was bad enough, missing it twice was the thing that cost him the frame. And because if he doesn't miss it the second time, he's now 9 points clear with 7 points at the table. So there's no need to be taking the black on. And yeah, such a frame. Exactly. Well, we'll see what's going to happen here, but I think that 75% is going to be starting to drop down slowly because... well, one thing I would say though, Napon has been a player throughout this tournament where whenever you think he's going to disintegrate and dissolve like a biscuit in a cup of tea, he always seems to come back a lot stronger in the next frame. So we'll see what's going to happen, but for now, I still think you can write him off at your own risk. I'm not going to do that. But who would I say the favourite for the 8th frame? Well, logically Selby, but statistically, I would say... he will be down to, not essentially anymore, yeah, Letitia had enough. He will be down to a chance for Saengkham to do exactly the same thing as he's done against Trump, against Murphy, against O'Sullivan, and against Watchalong. The reason why I say that, I haven't just listed all of them, because he's beaten every single one of them. Think about the frame, number 8, against Trump, where he looked like he was out, looked like Trump was not interested, looked like he was going to be 6-2 win. He didn't. Trump played a really good end to that frame. He was able to get himself a 3rd frame on the board. Saengkham wins the next frame very comfortably. Didn't leave a chance away to Judd. 6-3 win. Bang. Against Ronnie, it's difficult. Yes, it's not difficult at all. The final frame of the match was when Ronnie managed to find a clearance of 64 points out of nowhere whilst playing some awful snooker. Saengkham responded with, yes, Ronnie was unlucky on the blue, and yes, he did sort of bottle 3 snookers advantage, but still, he was able to go with a really good shot on the pink and finish it off in the end, and scoring some really big points in the meantime. Against Murphy, he's done that way more than once, where he was stealing frames of him as soon as it felt like Murphy was going to have the advantage, but we'll see what's going to happen with Selby. What certainly is going to happen is, once again, I'm pretty sure we've seen that from everyone but Stuart Bingham, actually, in the Final 4, which was an interesting thing there. Selby and Bingham had a situation like this yesterday. Watchalong and Saengkham have both done it, where after a break-off shot, they left the red over the left middle. So, it does seem like the prediction of the stats doesn't really work out too well, although that's not a nice line for the cue ball. And, well, let's see if he's going to be on the collar. He will be on the brown, but not into the right middle, I think. Into the right corner, I think. So, not ideal for Selby. Let's see if he's going to just try and take the pace away for the cue ball and play the white in towards the brown. He will. So I think Saengkham will be pretty happy with that because of how bad of a break-off it was. And when trouble comes, the real man rises. Exactly. That's an Armageddon reply. Yeah, exactly. Naponchan's dangerous. Well, we'll see. Listen, it's still going to be the favourite to try and get anywhere in this session because, you know, the worst that he can manage now after those 6 frames was 4 all. The worst after 6.5 frames that he looked like he could manage was going to be 5-3 though. So I think he's going to be fair if he wins this session 5-3, but at the same time, after the comeback of Selby in the previous frame, I think you have to give him credit. If he comes back and wins this frame, I think he deserves it as well. So we'll see what's going to happen, and there's going to be a break of 2 hours in between. this session and the one which will crown the China Open for the 4th time in the face of Mark Selby, or of course for the first time in the face of Naporn Saengkham, putting Selby clear of Mark Williams as the only other player that have won this tournament 3 times, alongside Watchalong, Neil Robertson, and who else have won it 2 times? Ding Zhuyi, I think, Ronnie O'Sullivan, John Higgins, both won it twice, and only Selby and Williams have won it 3 times. As we'll still see the body language of both of them, and also the way they're going to play the game. So far, it seems like both of them are playing fairly ordinary safety shots. Not too great, but not too bad. But who's going to be the more aggressive one, I think, is probably going to be a question that doesn't need answering. But how aggressive is Naporn Saengkham going to be? And how is that aggression going to transition in relation to the points that he's looking to try and score? For now, plays a good shot here. I say ordinary on the previous occasions, but this time he's now going to play the shot quite well, getting himself lined up for the red to be separated by the blue. And now for the cue ball to be very awkwardly positioned on top of the green. So it's not going to be easy for Selby to try and cue this one well. The position is still very closed, and therefore you need a lot of work to try and make this position to be the one which gets you towards the mid-session break in a nice mood, because whatever happens in this frame, one of the players will be in a very nice mood indeed. Selby needed to make sure, as he take that red on a very long journey, he needed to make sure he put it away from the pocket. And I think, and I want to emphasize, I think he's just about done enough there. I know Naporn is looking at it as a cat would look at a pigeon, but I think it's just about a bit too far away from the pocket, and ultimately trying to go for a cut like this would just send the cue ball to be praying for help, clashing with the colours all over the table, and ultimately, well, he thought against it, and unlucky there, you know, because he potted actually. He actually managed to pot the red. He's absolutely done exactly what I said with colliding with the colours, but after a good little point from Selby on the first shot of the frame for himself, it's now a point from Naporn Saengkham. But I don't think, apart from if he goes for that blue, which tell you what, he's thinking about it, surely not. I mean, I know he's aggressive, but that's a woo easy type of a shot to be taken on. He has to be very awkwardly placing his hand there, but I did say, and I did question him on the previous shot, it worked out. It's not going to work out on this occasion though, I'm afraid. I don't know why he was doing it. I mean, I don't know why he was doing it on the previous attempts, but I don't know which shot was worse, to be fair, because either was horrible. Because on the first one, yes, you're playing for a colour, but he didn't play for a colour, did he? He played into the bunch of reds, which had absolutely no control of, clearly. And then on the second shot, you play for the reds, trying to take the blue with a long shot, whilst having a very awkward shot on the cue ball as well. So, well, listen, I know he's got a good history with the blue, but Selby actually not being too happy about the position that he's been left with, and checking the left-hand side of the table to try and potentially leave the cue ball onto. So, clearly got the red into the right corner to be taken diagonally from the side cushion. Not the easiest shot at all. In fact, probably quite a awkward one for you to be taking on, but at the same time, it's the best chance, and it's the only chance that he's got. And I thought he was actually going to fancy his chances to go for that red, but clearly not. Which means he's either going to go for the red on the left corner. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the camera is sort of indicating, hello, that red is there, into the right corner. But Selby clearly thinks against it, which is surprising because he's playing for the black into the left corner. I mean, surely that is the best thing that he can do. But, I mean, he's got a little bit more brain power than I do. But, yeah, he's clearly going to go for an aggressive shot. But, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. Taking a red along the cushion. He made that one in, so you can't blame him for that. But is he going to be on the colour? No, to be fair. Somehow, he's actually managed to make the easier part of the work to be the more difficult one. Because it seemed like with so many colours to be out of position, yes, but so many of them to be in open plates as well, he's actually managed to overplay the cue ball for the colours. So, yeah, he's certainly going to have to try and take the sting out of the game there. I think that's what he's trying to do. So, I think we are seeing the switch in play there from Selby. Because I'm pretty sure, I'm actually going to say this, I'm pretty sure he played that with a regard to get a snooker, which is surprising, but I think he played that red to eventually get a snooker on the colour, which explains why he was playing with so much backspin side spin to try and get the cue ball so high up the table, which is surprising because I thought he was actually scoring more than good enough for him to take it as a challenge to Nippon Saengkham. Let me just sort something out very quickly. Good old issue with the rotor, but yeah, I mean, as I say, we're not really going to miss anything for now for the next couple of minutes because Saengkham is going to try and draw the lines and think about the way that he wants to try and hit the reds. Ideally, you always want to be doing that from the right cushion at the end, but the pink is going to be getting in the way of that. So I think the easiest way, the safest way actually, not the easiest way, but the safest way for him would be to try and take the cue ball to the red, which is the lowest of them all. But he was nowhere near that particular red. I don't know what he was playing for. But in the end, even though it was a surprising shot selection from Selby, he certainly seemed like the one that's worked out for him now. And an opportunity to be taking a much easier red away into the corner. Have a straightforward positional shot for the black, which without that late contact for the red, he wasn't playing too well. But as I say, he did get that contact on the red. And now, all of a sudden, with the black to be available, it's starting to be a very clear path now for Selby to try and make it all the way to 4 frames each, which, you know, I said, have to worry about Selby if he was 5-2 down. He's certainly not going to have to worry about him if he's going to be, you know, 4-all ahead of the second mini session. Sorry, ahead of the second session as well, because the momentum that he's going to take, of course, is going to disappear in the next 2 hours, but the experience that he's going to take into the second session, I think, is going to be very valuable indeed. And his percentage of winning the finals, this is where he's going to come into play nicely for him. But let's see, you never know. Every final is a new day. And of course, he's lost 33% of them, which still leaves a significant chunk of the ones that he would have lost. Now then, playing the cue ball all the way toward the top part of the table, which of course, you know, out of the last 3 finals that he's had, he managed to lose the biggest one, arguably of his life, being against Luca Brusel, making a maximum in that final, but still didn't really help on his pursuit of winning the actual championship in 23 and becoming a 5-time world champion, which would have been certainly quite an achievement. But as we now get through the colours of the pink going onto the blue spot, the black going onto the pink spot, certainly managed to sort that part out. I think he's going to try and keep the red occupying the black spot for a while. Wants to try and clean the position, which will take the cue ball to be lined up for the black to be taken itself, and then take the red away so that you're going to be able to get the black and the pink to be back to their usual surroundings. For now, just playing in around the black, being on the pink spot is going to be a very healthy thing for Mark Selby to try and achieve. And I did forget to check whether the referee has actually said this is going to be the final frame of the session. I did check the official things. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but the highest break for the tournament is actually going to be 15,000. So they managed to increase that from the other China tournaments. And the format should be 8 frames in the first session and then down to 11 frames maximum in the session number 2, which is a little bit surprising because in China they usually do the format of 9 and 10. But here, maybe because of the past experience or maybe because of down to something else, they will try and see, you know, at least 8 frames in the first session and just make sure you're not going to be overloading the players in the first part of the session too much, in case, you know, he's going to be turning out to be a one-sided match and it's only going to be 14 frames to see at the end. No point for you to playing 9 frames in the first one and only having 5 frames in the second one. So I think that's what he's down to. For now, Selby making his way very quietly but surely through those loose reds. He's got 1 more available to him, and then after that, he's going to have to do something with the 4 reds in the main pack. And therefore just try and position himself to be in line for a 4-all draw. A little bit underplayed for the black there, but able to recover, taking the black nicely away. And once again, I mean, we certainly have seen a drastic change with Selby in the previous frame, which has managed to carry on into this frame as well. His pot success has came back to normal. We're not seeing any stupid errors. We're not seeing positional play to be absolutely all over the place, which I suppose it never was. It was always down to just missing some bad shots for him. His positional play has actually been quite solid so far today. And now we'll see if he can make some good improvements on those 4 reds from the black. Plenty of backspin on the cue ball. And the answer is no, surprisingly. Unless he's got a red into the middle, he's going to have to settle for a safety shot. He's still looking for that red to be taken in towards the left part of the table. But yeah, I mean, I did fancy Selby to get rid of the things here. But I think he's going to ask the referee for the touching ball there. And the referee has confirmed it, which clearly suggests that Selby will try and get the cue ball somewhere in behind the blue again. So, unable to kill the frame, but probably doing the main damage here, although we've seen a gap of 57 points to be overturned. Selby grinding out up on needs end of session more. He does, but it's going to have to be the exact same things that's happened in the previous frame, but with Napon as the main actor. So we'll see if he's going to be able to get past the cast there. For now, it's a decent line for Selby, but it's quite a little bit too much to the left there. So he's not going to be able to cover up all the reds with the cue ball being behind blue, but still, nice shot there that he's played. And Napon has got a chance, obviously, to go for a long red into the corner, but I'm not sure if he wants to try and play that shot right now, because with the lack of the angle and the lack of space in between the cue ball, the reds and the black, I think he's going to have to struggle to get the white through that gap, and therefore he may still come out with a bit of an issue when he comes down to the end of it. But we'll see. There is going to be plenty of consideration there going through his head, because 52 points down, you can think sometimes it may be the last chance that you'll have to go for a long shot, but at the same time, that might be the reason why it's your last chance to go for a long shot. Because if you miss it, which you'll go for it now, he made it in perfectly well. The cue ball is going to be close towards the green pocket. That is, I was just about to say that is super unlucky, but the cue ball somehow is going to stay at the table. I don't know how. Saengkham clearly couldn't see that the cue ball was going to go past the other end, but I mean, how did it not drop into the pocket? Yeah, caught a little bit too much of the side jaw. Okay, so he's in the hunt, and let's see how many problems is he going to have there, because not many is the bottom line. Does he want to play a Selby shot now? Does he want to try and get in behind the green? The temptation of going for the green now and trying to get rid of that most dangerous red away into the right middle would be huge. He's gone for the green. I can't see if he made it. Ooh, he feels like he faded that one away. But in the end, not going to be good enough, I'm afraid. And that was the decision. It could be the frame winner. It could be the last shot of the session. And it seemed like it is going to be the latter. So just 1 point away from Saengkham. And now, of course, Selby only needs 2 reds. And then he's going to be clear into the open place. But he missed the red. Well, to say that I didn't expect that is an understatement. Where did that mistake come from? I'm not going to say that red was over the pocket, but I am going to say, I mean, come on, that is impossible to miss. Well, that is poor from Selby, especially when he only needed 3 shots. Tell you what, Saengkham clearly sees Selby to be asking for a 5-3 of a deficit. Well, this is when you need to be able to step up to the pressure and step up to the occasion. The position has become a little bit worse than he was beforehand, and I'm even more surprised that he's about to go for the green, which is in the pocket. Why would you play that shot? I mean, how precise you have to be on this red. I mean, he's played this shot well, but he's still nowhere near a good position on the red. Some of his decisions there have been absolutely baffling, and like someone that doesn't really care wins. But I sincerely want Saengkham to win this session 5-3. But sometimes it just feels like he doesn't want to win it. He's got a massive shot now out of nowhere. He had the black pretty much on his nose there. Now he's got to go for this red, which, to be fair to him, he's made into the pocket, but still making his life so much more difficult for no reason. It's not going to be something that wins you a final here. But making a red like that, of course, will. But he's losing a lot of points. He's still fine there when he comes down to taking the blue on here, but he's got for the easiest 3 reds eliminated, and now he's going to have to go for the more difficult 3 reds as well. No, Selby, what have you done? I don't know what he's done, but he certainly didn't do himself justice with that long shot. Now Saengkham got a little pace on the cue ball, a little bit too much pace. And yeah, a little bit too much pace, too much there, you think. Unless that red will go into the yellow pocket, which will be... Actually, I could see the gap there. I don't think he can miss that type of a shot because of how close the cue ball is in behind the red. The fact that he's looking at the scoreboard probably suggests that he can't really see that line, which is surprising. I thought, you know, I thought I can see the gap. Once again, thank you, China Open, for showing the relative line. So that you have to start guessing there for a minute to see if that red will go into the yellow pocket or not. He will, because he clearly went for it, and he spotted that one as well. So, once again, he is trying to start with the easier reds first, but he is struggling to even get those ones in, let alone trying to work his way through the 2 most difficult reds because of their particular positions. Of course, he's going to lose the blue now, which is currently on the black ball spot, and he's going to have to try and put that one into the pink spot. So, once again, a similar shot to the one that he had on the black. I think you're making a mistake. Oh, sorry, that's me making a mistake. Idiot. Why did I think the pink was going to, the blue was going to go on the pink spot if he has to go on the most expensive spot? What an idiot. 35 is the advantage now for Mark Selby as he's now going for the red, which is similar to the black that cost him in the previous frame. And this time around, he just about wobbles that one in. He did make sure he didn't get anywhere near the front jaw on that occasion, but of course it's risky to be doing that because if you try and use too much of the back end jaw, you will absolutely 100% leave that red to be in the pocket available for your opponent. So 34 points is the advantage. It does smell of the previous frame in roles reversed, but it also smells quite badly of the second frame that we had where Saengkham had the chance to clear it. He stumbled on the last red. Now he's got a shot on the blue to get him towards that last red. This is all about trying to get in behind of it. He's done a really good job of it. And I tell you what, he's played the shot, one of the shots of the match there. How precise was that cueing there? Well, write him off. And I did write him off to an extent. But Selby is going to be absolutely kicking himself if that long red is going to be the shot that costs him. There is still a long way to go though, because the blue is going to be out of position until the end of the frame. The pink is going to be out of position unless Saengkham takes it now. So there is still work to do, but the fact that he got this far is very, very impressive. Battlefield for the pawn. For all second session, everything has to be made to the end. But yeah, but there's not really a guarantee that he will be for all. Well, there's a lot more chance of that being happening now because he has messed this one up. A really good positional shot on the red. Not so much on the black or the blue. I think he's got to go for the black because he needs the black to go onto its own spot, first of all. Well, he doesn't really need to, but I don't think he needs the blue to be on the black ball spot there, which is another thing. But also I think he gets a better line of the cue ball. Just didn't want to catch the brown, and he did catch the brown. So out of position completely for the yellow. And one thing you need to make sure is to stop there, to say you've done well, and not to go for the yellow in towards the right corner, which is already something that he's looking at. Well, don't say I didn't warn you. Yeah, surely it is such a carbon copy of what we've seen in the second frame. Selby wasn't able to finish that frame in the single clearance on the previous time in frame number 7. Napon feels like he can, he couldn't. And the yellow is now going to be bumpering away into the open space and being right on top of the cue ball, right on top into the yellow pocket. I did warn you. You decided to go for that reckless shot anyway. And now you're about to find out the price for that particular shot because Selby is only going to need the yellow and green, which both of them, not necessarily the yellow. There's still work to be done there. But the green is certainly going to be on the plate. So all that work for nothing. Still in it. Well, not now. I think he's just about out of it. But of course, should Selby miss the yellow? I mean, I couldn't think that he was going to miss that red in a long shot. So there's always a chance that he'll miss the yellow as well. But not this time. And enough is enough there for Selby, and enough will be enough here for him as well, because he's got a great opportunity to come back from the dead twice. He could have easily lost this session 6-2. In the end, he's one shot away from making it down to 4 frames each. And, well, make it all down to a second session shootout, which you might say is great for the neutral. In terms of the scoreline it is, I don't think for the Saengkham and his chances it is going to be great, because now Selby surely is not going to be giving him a head start like that in the second session. And, well, just waiting for the handshake, because, as I say, the referee hasn't really said it's going to be the final frame of the session, but I think it would be. And therefore, with Selby finishing off with a break of 14 points, game on Selby gone favourite exactly. So we'll see if he carries on this form into the second part of the session, but I don't think, we're going to see another bit of charity there from Selby, where he's going to leave Saengkham with, there's a couple of frames that he lost that he could have won, and at the same time, it was all closely contested, but in the end, it is going to be Mark Selby that finishes off with a break of 20 points. The handshake is going to be in, so 4 frames each is the actual result, as we very much draw the line on the session number 1. It is Mark Selby that manages to draw his own line with his own marker, with really good couple of frames there for him. Saengkham seemed like he was going to be coming away with a fight, but in the end he was just a little bit short in both of those closely contested frames. And you have to say, one thing that Selby has done is that he has managed to come back every single time. Where it was a close frame, Selby's won it in every single one of those occasions. The 4 frames that the pawn has won were all dominated for him, which means he's got plenty of things to try and take onto the next session, but at the same time, he's got plenty of things to try and improve on. As I say, he's had a 1-0 lead after a really good frame, then Selby responded to his own brilliant performance. Third frame was even better from Selby, because in the second frame, he felt like there were chances for Saengkham to try and come back. Then we've seen the 4th frame, once again, complete and utter domination from the pawn. He's done the same thing in the 5th and the 6th frame. It looked like he was going to do the same thing in the frame number 7 as well. Having a 57 points of a lead wasn't enough there. Couple of silly errors have cost him that frame. And even though that final blue and the pink, were potted there by the pawn, the black stayed away. And that was certainly something that could prove to be the deciding point in the match in total, because 5-2 and, a frame like it was played in the 8th frame as well, I think it would have been a very different scenario now. But for Selby, he's still got lots of work to do. But for the pawn, you feel like his chances of winning this match have just gone from 70%, if he had a 5-3 lead, down to 30%, which is a massive switch. But Selby's got plenty more things to try and improve on himself, because, of course, he didn't play particularly well throughout this first session, but he was still more than good enough for him to find himself 4 frames each. Thanks for the great coverage. See you in 2 hours. Thank you very much out there for everyone. Thanks for Kevin and Letitia as the moderators. Who do you think will win the match if you had to pick a player instantly? Selby. And before the match, I'm going to tell you the scoreline that I would have predicted before the match has started, which is not going to happen right now, but 10-5. I would have said Selby to win 10-5, and comfortably. I couldn't see Selby winning this match, which is why I was excited for Saengkham to try and get the lead, because I thought that might get, things to be a little bit spicy. But for me, Selby here, especially since what he's done in the last 2 frames, I think it will be very much down to him to try and take that one away. Anyway, thank you very much for everyone tuning in, and feel free to be back in 2 hours time as we come back for the players to be delivering more action, 6 more frames to be guaranteed, and hopefully plenty more than that, as we are about to see a final, hopefully a little bit closer than what we've seen in between Karen Wilson and Judd Trump at the Shanghai Masters, and either the 4th crown for Selby at the China Open or the 1st ranking title for Nippon Saengkham. Who's he going to be? Feel free to find out in 2 hours time. Once again, thanks for watching everyone, and see you later in 2 hours time. Thanks everyone.
I see the light inside you, bright.